I divorced my husband because he cheated on me 3 years ago with my younger sister. They sent me an invitation to their wedding. My mother said she would attend, and I felt betrayed by her too. Then she said, "I'll do something fun, you just wait and see." I had a plan to punish the two of them. My name is Emma. My husband and I worked in the same company, and I was his boss. He was a bit unreliable but sincere and friendly. I was responsible for training him and teaching him the job. At first, he was nervous about the new work, but over time, we grew close. "Yuma, are you free on our next day off?" he asked me. I was surprised when he asked me out on a date, but I was excited to see how confident he was outside of work. It made my heart skip a beat. After that, we often went out together. "Emma, will you be my girlfriend?" he asked. 6 months after we officially started dating, he could handle his work all by himself. He had become a valuable part of our company. I felt as happy as if it were my own success when other bosses praised him. He then got promoted and moved to a different department. That's when he proposed to me. "Emma, I want you to marry me." "Yes, I'd be happy to," I replied. My parents and younger sister Kate immediately liked Liam, and our wedding went smoothly. Kate, who was the same age as Liam, got along with him right away. "You're so lucky to marry a kind man like Liam. It seems like people at work have high expectations for him, right?" Kate said. She had just broken up with her boyfriend and was yearning for marriage, always telling me how jealous she was of me. After our wedding, I continued working and taking care of the household, supporting Liam both at work and in our personal lives. At least I thought I was supporting him. About a year after our marriage, he started coming home later and later, and we hardly ever had dinner together. "Hey Liam, we haven't talked about work lately. Is everything okay?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong," he replied tersely. "But you've been coming home late every day. If there's anything I can do to help." "There isn't," he cut me off. He used to share everything with me, but recently he seemed annoyed whenever I brought up work. On his days off, he'd either sleep all day, claiming exhaustion, or head out to clear his mind. Feeling like we weren't spending enough quality time together, I made a suggestion to Liam. "Hey Liam, how about we go to a spa together during the next holiday?" My sister recommended a place to us. I suggested. "A spa, huh?" A spa is a place where we can relax and recharge our bodies and minds, especially from the stresses of work. Seeing Liam busy, I took the initiative to make a hotel reservation that included a spa. A week before our planned spa trip, I asked Liam, "What time should we leave next week for the spa?" "Huh? Oh, is the spa trip next week? I forgot to mention I have a business trip scheduled for that weekend." "What? But you've known of the spa trip for a while now." "Well, it's work, so I can't really change it, can I?" "I see." Liam's department seemed busier than ever with frequent business trips. It seemed like I had no choice but to give up on the spa trip this time too. As usual, Liam left early in the morning for his business trip. If things had gone as planned, we would be on our way to the spa together by now, I thought sadly. While feeling down, I received a phone call. It was from the hotel where I had booked a reservation. Despite sending a cancellation email, they didn't receive it due to an error and called to confirm our arrival time. That's right, I thought. I might as well invite Kate. I called my parents' house, but Kate had been out since morning and wouldn't be back soon. So as a last resort, I decided to invite my mother to the spa. Compared to my sister, I had almost given up on the idea that my mother would be able to go on such short notice, but surprisingly, she agreed. "Really? Is it okay to leave Dad alone?" I asked. "Right now, I'm more worried about you than your father," she replied gently. It seemed she had noticed I'd been feeling down lately and chose to join me on the trip. "Thanks, Mom." "I should be thanking you. I'm happy to be on a trip like this with you." I decided to make the most of the trip with my mother, which was a rare treat. However, as soon as we arrived at the hotel, my mother and I noticed something unusual. "Mom, look at that." At the hotel, we spotted Liam, who was supposed to be away on his business trip. He was walking closely with another woman, both looking happy as they entered the same hotel where we were supposed to stay. As they walked in, the woman turned her face towards us for a brief moment. "You've got to be kidding," I whispered in disbelief. The woman with Liam was my sister Kate. After that moment, shock took over and I have vague memories of how I made it back home. My mother made me some tea, which eventually helped me to start calming down. He had been lying to me, and not just Liam, Kate had deceived me too. After calming down, I called Liam's department. As I suspected, they hadn't been assigning business trips or much overtime for years. When I shared with my mother the days Liam came home late or was away on supposed business trips, it turned out Kate wasn't home on those days either, a detail that struck me. All those times he was late or away on trips, he was meeting Kate, wasn't he? I realized with a surge of anger rather than sadness. With the truth revealed, anger consumed me. Mom, I'm divorcing Liam. I don't want to see Kate, so I won't visit home for a while. She stayed silent but understood my decision. I made all the preparations just before Liam returned. I organized the divorce papers, arranged a new contract for my own house, packed my things, and moved into a temporary apartment before settling into the new place. At our home, I left a letter along with the divorce papers for Liam. I specified that all legal matters, including alimony, would be handled through my lawyer, and I blocked all forms of communication with him. To keep my new address private from Liam and Kate, I didn't inform my parents. Since we worked at the same company, we occasionally crossed paths, but I avoided any interaction with him completely. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Liam quickly agreed to the divorce. He didn't disclose the reason to anyone, but our colleagues seemed to gather it from my behavior and wisely avoided discussing the matter. 3 years went by with me keeping my distance from both Liam and my family. One evening after work, I found my mother waiting for me in my room. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked. "I have something to show you," she replied, holding out an invitation. "It's from Liam and Kate." To my surprise, Kate had left our family home and moved in with Liam. I had considered the possibility they might marry, but I never expected them to actually have a wedding and invite our parents. "So, Mom, are you planning to go?" I asked her. "Of course I am," she answered firmly. I understood that I was the only one who still couldn't forgive them. It seemed they knew this, which was why they had only invited our parents to the wedding. Having distanced myself from Liam and my parents, I felt I had no right to object. Seeing my sadness, my mother smiled reassuringly and said, "Don't worry. I'm not going because I forgive them. Just wait and see." On the day of the wedding, my mother video called me. "I don't want to see their faces," I said, almost hanging up. But I remembered my mother's earlier words and stayed on the call. The screen displayed a slideshow that was being presented. The MC began introducing the slides. This slideshow was created by the bride's mother. She gathered photos from her beloved daughter's birth to the present and created this presentation, the MC announced. I was taken aback that my mother, who wasn't very tech-savvy, had put together such a slideshow. It stirred up a mix of emotions inside me. "Mom, you went through all this effort for Kate." I wondered, feeling a wave of sadness. But then something caught my attention on the screen. "Wait, this isn't Kate," I realized. The slideshow began with a photo of myself as a newborn baby. "So cute, there's a resemblance to Kate somehow," the guests commented in a relaxed atmosphere as they watched the slideshow. Kate's expression grew tense. The MC continued, "Since she was young, the bride has always been dedicated to her family. She excelled as a student and successfully entered her desired university. Upon starting her career, she became a highly reliable employee at the company." Kate's friends and colleagues, who recognized moments from her student days and workplace, began to chatter excitedly. "Hey, isn't that a photo from the welcome party at University J? Kate didn't attend such a prestigious university, did she? Wait, isn't that a photo from the company's welcome party? Hold on closer inspection it looks completely different. Wait, if this isn't Kate." Liam also appeared to have noticed. "What the hell is this? This isn't Kate." Unaware of the bride and groom's shocked expressions, the MC continued to progress through the slides. And then she met the groom, Liam, at the company. According to the bride's mother, she initially trained Liam when he joined the company. Eventually, the two got married. Following this introduction were photos from my wedding with Liam. The MC couldn't hide their confusion, sensing something was amiss. They fell silent. It was then that my mother stepped forward and took the microphone. "Allow me to take over from here and explain," she said calmly as she advanced the slides. "Even after marriage, my daughter supported him both personally and professionally. However, as Liam became increasingly busy, he struggled to find time for her. So my daughter planned a spa trip to help him relax. Wait, please. Kate cried desperately, her face pale, trying to halt my mother. Ignoring Kate's attempts, my mother continued with the slides. The next photo showed Liam and Kate entering the spa hotel together, looking very close. Finally, photos of the bride and groom appeared, and both the MC and the guests fell silent. Liam and Kate appeared even more pale. But Liam declined my daughter's spa trip invitation, citing a business trip he had to attend. He claimed it couldn't be helped due to work commitments. My daughter invited me instead, and it was during that trip that we discovered his affair. With those words, the room erupted into chatter and speculation prompted by my mother's revelation. Wait, an affair? And this wedding is for Kate and Liam. Could this wedding be based on their affair? But why would Kate's mother? To address the guests' inquiries, my mother continued in a measured tone. Liam swore to marry my beloved daughter Emma and promised to make her happy. Instead, he betrayed her by having an affair with her own sister, Kate. Mother, please stop. Today is supposed to be my wedding day. Can't you celebrate my happiness? Kate cried, pleading with our mother to halt. Ignoring Kate's pleas, my mother stared coldly at her and replied, I've always wanted you to be happy, but you were the one who shattered that first. Emma always considered not just herself, but the happiness of our family. What about you, Kate? Have you ever considered how much Emma would be hurt by your actions? Well, she always seems so content. It's not fair. So instead of being happy for your family, you just got jealous, huh? My mother-in-law retorted sharply. Mother-in-law, please stop. She's your precious daughter too, isn't she? Can't you celebrate our new beginning? Why are you doing this? Kate pleaded, clearly distressed. I can't accept someone as dishonest as you into our family. Today's ceremony made that clear to me. If you truly wanted to start anew with Kate, why didn't you invite a single person from your own company? If you're going to have such a grand wedding, shouldn't you apologize to Emma? It's selfish to invite me and her father without making any effort like that. But Emma has been ignoring me all this time, Liam protested. Of course she has, after what you've done. It's only natural, my mother-in-law replied firmly. But that's all in the past now, isn't it? Do you think her wounds will heal in just 3 years? And do you think you can regain our trust in such a short time? Don't be ridiculous. My mother's voice echoed angrily as she and my father left the wedding venue. I could hear her speaking through the phone. Did you see that, Emma? She asked. Yes, I replied. I'm sorry for bringing up painful things. I couldn't stand seeing those two act as if nothing happened, she explained. No, thank you. I feel relieved. It's like you said everything I wanted to say, I admitted. That's right, Emma. You always keep everything to yourself. I thought it was too kind of you not to tell your colleagues the reason for your divorce. Later, my mother sent me a recording of her conversation with Liam from the wedding. Indeed, as she had said, time doesn't easily heal such wounds. Moreover, Liam showed no signs of remorse, dismissing it all as a thing of the past. I decided to enact my revenge by exposing Liam during a company presentation. I signed up quickly when I saw he was scheduled to speak and soon found myself in the conference room. When it was Liam's turn, his supervisor, unaware of his remarriage, commented, Liam, you seem even more motivated today, freshly married. Yes, I'm dedicated to doing my best for my family, he replied cheerfully. He must have known I was present, but that only fueled my determination. I played the recorded audio I received from my mother. The room was startled by the sudden noise from the recording. As they learned about his affair with my sister during our marriage, accusations started flying. Liam, didn't you claim the divorce was due to different values? I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Oh really? Did you say something like that? Well, I can't comprehend a value system that includes cheating with your wife's own sister. I apologize for bringing personal matters into this important internal presentation. As of today, I have decided to resign. I have endured this because I value this company, but I cannot continue working alongside him any longer. Just as I prepared to leave, the board members intervened to halt my departure. Wait a moment, Emma. You're a crucial asset to our company. If anyone should leave, it should be Liam. Huh? But I was considered to have a promising future here. We held high hopes for you in the past, but recently your attire has been less formal and you seem less focused. It appears you have lost the problem-solving abilities you once demonstrated. We don't have the same expectations for you as before." Kate, who had always been inept at housework and had done little even while living with our parents, became a full-time housewife after marrying Liam. Apparently, she left most of the household chores for him to handle. Without my advice to guide him through work challenges, Liam began causing more problems. Word of his affair with his wife's sister spread throughout the company, damaging his reputation. During a board meeting, it was decided that I would stay with the company while Liam would be transferred to a remote location with the expectation of eventual layoff. Kate, who had been enjoying a comfortable life as a housewife on Liam's earnings, quickly abandoned him upon discovering the affair and moved on to another man. Unfortunately for her, the new man turned out to be a typical freeloader burdened with debt. Now she is struggling, working 2 jobs day and night to make ends meet. As they say, what goes around comes around. When you do wrong, it eventually catches up with you. Watching Liam and Kate face the consequences of their actions, I finally felt ready to begin a new chapter in my life.
"Please leave. It's too crowded in here," Jennifer said with a laugh. Her smile was smug and unsettling, the worst I had ever seen. I stood there, shocked, as Jennifer repeated herself. I didn't understand why I had to leave my own house. "This is my house, you know. What are you talking about?" I asked. "I know this house is in Daniel's name," she replied. I was shocked by Jennifer's nerve. Even though I had explained everything when we got married, it seemed she hadn't listened at all. "Fine, I'll leave," I said with a sigh. Watching Jennifer gleefully unpack her furniture into Daniel's home, I wished he were here, but he was away on a business trip for a month. I decided to wait until he returned to discuss the situation. "Well then, take care," I said. With that, I left the house filled with memories. I knew where I was going next. I anticipated Daniel's reaction when he returned. "My name is Karen, and I'm a 65-year-old housewife. I worked until I was 60 and now live comfortably thanks to my pension and the inheritance from my husband, who passed away 5 years ago. He came from a wealthy family and owned several properties. Despite his wealth, he enjoyed working and was frugal. During the years we raised our child, there were times I got frustrated with my husband for being so focused on work, but I always admired him for taking on challenges with a smile. It's been 5 years since he passed away in October, in a tragic accident that happened on our wedding anniversary. I can't forget seeing the crushed cake box at the accident scene. He left behind a significant inheritance, insurance money, and our beloved son Daniel. Daniel turned 40 this year and works at a big company. After his father's sudden death, Daniel went through a rough patch. He was cheated on and divorced by his then-wife, and he briefly sought counseling to cope. I worried he might quit his job, but then he met Jennifer, and things turned around quickly once they started dating. They got married last year, and since then he's been even more driven at work and seems to have fully recovered. Jennifer, my son's wife, is a single mother with 2 boys aged 2 and 5. Daniel, who adores kids, had grown close to them, and I found them incredibly cute. Daniel couldn't have children due to an illness in his childhood, so the idea of having grandchildren filled me with joy. I thought Jennifer was quite generous, although she occasionally said things that surprised me. Overall, I believe she had a good heart. Daniel and everyone else seemed to agree. It never occurred to me that things could turn out the way they did. After their marriage, Daniel and Jennifer moved into a property near our house. I had suggested they live in one of my husband's houses. "We want to start in a home we've chosen ourselves," Daniel insisted. He explained that Jennifer had a preference for cute things, and none of the available properties matched her tastes. When I first heard this, I was puzzled, but since they were newly married with children, I decided not to dwell on it, thinking they deserved to enjoy their preferred lifestyle. Daniel was often busy with work and traveled frequently. During his absences, Jennifer would bring the kids over for dinner. The grandchildren were well behaved, but Jennifer's behavior was quite different. She helped herself to food and often went through our closets without asking, even entering our bedroom to take my jewelry. This shocked me, and I felt the need to confront her about it. Jennifer suddenly burst into tears. "I just wanted us to get along. Please don't hate me." Faced with Jennifer's tears, I found myself comforting her instead of addressing the issue. I chose not to tell Daniel about what happened, and since Jennifer didn't take anything else after that, I decided to keep the incident to myself. About 6 months into their marriage, Jennifer started sending her kids over to stay with us frequently. She would call abruptly the day before and hang up quickly, making it hard to say no. Reluctantly, I found myself taking care of the kids each time. Although they remained obedient, their table manners had noticeably deteriorated since we first met. They ate loudly and often spilled food outside their plates, despite being well behaved before. I had to remind them repeatedly, but they would only listen temporarily before slipping back into their old habits during the next visit. This routine left me feeling frustrated. Jennifer appeared unconcerned and would drop off her children at our home and leave quickly. Initially, Jennifer would visit with the kids, but after a few times, she started sending them over alone. "Jennifer, it's okay for the kids to come over, but I'd appreciate it if you could join them sometimes," I suggested. "But I'm quite busy," Jennifer replied evasively. That night, Daniel called me unexpectedly. "Hey Mom, could you try to be a bit more understanding with Jennifer?" "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. I thought I had been quite kind to her, but Daniel seemed to have a different perspective. "Jennifer feels pressured to visit often because she's afraid of being expected to help out like she had to in her previous marriage. She had a tough time with her ex-husband's family, so please go easy on her." "Really? Okay, I understand." It seemed Jennifer had misunderstood my intentions. I responded to Daniel with mixed feelings, and the next day, Jennifer sent the kids over to our house again. As their first year of marriage passed, the children began spending half of each week with us. Meanwhile, Jennifer would only visit a few times a month, staying for about 10 minutes each time. I started feeling uneasy about Jennifer, who always seemed too busy to talk. When I asked the children about Jennifer's plans, they would look guilty and shake their heads. Initially, I tried asking a few times, but their reactions made me feel so guilty that I couldn't bring myself to pry further. Then one day, Jennifer unexpectedly came over with Daniel. We sat down for coffee and had a pleasant chat after a long while. That's when Daniel spoke up. "I have something to discuss," he said seriously. "The kids have really bonded with you, and I'm away on business trips often, so I can't spend much time with them. If you're okay with it, I'd like you to move in and help Jennifer out. What do you think?" "Move in? Well, what about Jennifer?" I was taken aback by the sudden suggestion of living together, nearly dropping my coffee cup in surprise. However, I kept my composure and turned to Jennifer. "Karen has always been a tremendous help, and I'd really appreciate her assistance," Jennifer chimed in. "Is that so? Well, I'll need some time to think about it," I replied. Daniel seemed pleased with my response. Knowing him, he must be concerned about my well-being too. I pondered over the proposal for a couple of days and eventually decided to accept. From there, we began clearing out unnecessary items and preparing rooms for Daniel's family and the children. With the kids' help, we finished cleaning up sooner than expected, although the effort left me with daily muscle pain. A stark reminder of my age. Despite the challenges, I successfully cleared out 2 rooms. As I busily cleaned, Jennifer didn't offer to help at all, which made me increasingly uneasy about living with her. Then came moving day. As the movers brought in boxes, Jennifer pulled me aside into the garden. With a puzzled expression, I turned to her, only to be met with a malicious smile. Then, unbelievably, she said something that left me stunned. "Please leave. It's too cramped in here," Jennifer laughed, her smile both smug and unsettling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why was she asking me to leave when it was my house? I was bewildered. "This is my house, you know. What are you talking about?" I asked. "I know this house is in Daniel's name," she replied sharply. Jennifer's assertion left me feeling inwardly frustrated. Despite explaining everything when we got married, it seemed she hadn't paid attention at all. "All right then, I'll leave," I said with a sigh. I watched as furniture that reflected Jennifer's tastes was moved in, and she seemed overjoyed. It would have been better if Daniel had been there, but he was away on a business trip. He wouldn't be back for a month, so I decided to postpone any discussion until then. "Well then, take care," I said as I left the house filled with memories. I already knew where I was headed next. I eagerly anticipated Daniel's reaction upon his return. Without delay, I moved my belongings into my new home. The new home was a villa my husband and I had visited once, filled with memories, including where he proposed to me. While it didn't hold as many memories as our previous home, it held a special place in my heart, as we had planned to spend our second life here together. After finishing unpacking, I relaxed alone on the sofa. The place was very comfortable, thanks to the caretaker's diligent maintenance. I felt a pang of sadness for not seeing the children anymore, but I was prepared to sever ties depending on Daniel's response. A month passed quickly, and around the time Daniel's business trip ended, he called me. I picked up the phone, feeling a bit nervous. "Mom, where are you? There's no space for you here, and we were supposed to be living together. What's going on? Hasn't Jennifer said anything to you?" When I got back, Mom wasn't here, and Jennifer just cries without giving me any answers. "Well then, come to this address I'm about to give you," I replied. I gave Daniel the address and hung up. The next day, Daniel arrived at my new home with Jennifer and the children. When I opened the door, I saw Daniel looking a bit somber and Jennifer appearing pale. "Welcome. Is something wrong?" I asked, concerned. No, nothing," Jennifer replied, visibly tense, while the children looked around with curiosity, especially the 5-year-old who seemed particularly fascinated. I guided Daniel's family into the living room. As they took in the fully furnished space, Daniel seemed to realize that I had no intention of continuing our previous living arrangement. "Hey Mom, why did you suddenly decide not to live together?" Daniel asked, puzzled. "Well, Jennifer should have a good understanding of that, shouldn't she?" I replied. Daniel scratched his head with a slightly irritated expression before recounting what he had heard from Jennifer. "Jennifer mentioned that you didn't like her choice of furniture, right? But that was just for our room. Couldn't you have let it go? She also said she had to buy more furniture for the living room because you moved out." "Oh, so she added more furniture, did she?" I looked directly at Jennifer, who twitched nervously. Her lips curved slightly upwards, as if she believed Daniel wouldn't believe my side of the story without proof. "Jennifer, why lie?" I asked plainly. "I haven't lied about anything," Jennifer replied, tears welling up in her eyes. Daniel immediately stepped in to console her, seeming to view me as the source of the conflict. Meanwhile, the grandchildren hung their heads behind them, avoiding eye contact with Jennifer. I let out a frustrated sigh. "Jennifer, stop the fake crying. The children can see right through it." "That's awful, Daniel. I'm really not lying. Please believe me," Jennifer pleaded, clinging to Daniel and burying her face against him. Despite her words, her voice lacked genuine emotion. I felt annoyed with Daniel for siding with Jennifer in this situation. "Mom, Jennifer may have made mistakes, but leaving without discussing it isn't right. Can't we try to work things out?" Daniel pleaded. "Well, I do owe you an apology for leaving abruptly, but any reconciliation with Jennifer will have to wait until you hear this," I replied, tapping my mobile phone. Immediately, a voice played out loud, causing Jennifer's face to turn pale. "You recorded it?" I accidentally hit the video button while trying to capture the kids playing. The recording continued without my realizing. The voice from my phone sounded unlike Jennifer's usual tone, and Daniel looked bewildered, shifting his gaze between my phone and Jennifer. "Jennifer was the one who asked me to leave. I was just following her instructions," I clarified. "Is this really you, Jennifer?" "It can't be," Daniel demanded, pushing away from Jennifer, who clung to him, and asked her directly. However, Jennifer remained silent, staring at the ground. Daniel's frustration grew as he raised his voice, demanding answers from Jennifer. "It's not true. Are you taking Karen's side?" Jennifer managed to protest weakly, but the recorded voice clearly called out the children's names, leaving no room for doubt. Despite Daniel's persistence and Jennifer's attempts to dodge the truth, the situation became wearisome. Finally, Jennifer slipped up in exasperation. "I never wanted to live with someone else in the first place." "What? You were the one who wanted Mom to live with us," Daniel said, clearly shocked by this revelation. Jennifer defiantly explained her reasoning. "Exactly. I couldn't understand why Karen was living in a house under your name while we had to rent. I wanted a home of our own." It appeared Jennifer was worried about being judged for living in a rental property after marrying again. Daniel had leased a luxurious condominium in the area, which cost around $4,000 per month. Despite this, Jennifer seemed to look down on it simply because it was a rental. This attitude caused me a different kind of frustration. Jennifer glared defiantly at me. "And now Karen is harassing me. This is the house I've always dreamed of. Why are you living here?" Daniel looked perplexed by Jennifer's accusation. Unlike Daniel, I straightforwardly explained to Jennifer, who was clearly on edge. "Why?" "Because this property originally belonged to my husband." "That's a lie because this place is," Jennifer started, possibly thinking of the caretaker or something else she was mistaken about. I showed Jennifer a photo on my mobile phone. Upon seeing the person in the photo, Jennifer exclaimed, "Father?" My husband had passed away before Daniel remarried, so Jennifer had never met him. She had never referred to my husband as father. Therefore, the father Jennifer mentioned must be the children's paternal grandfather. The photo captured Jennifer's father-in-law and me shaking hands. It was taken as a memento when we moved in. Jennifer looked at me, her face turning pale. "How do you know him?" "How? Because he's the caretaker here, of course," I replied calmly. Upon hearing this revelation, Jennifer sat down right where she stood. Daniel also appeared stunned, struggling to grasp the situation. Sensing an opportunity to clarify things further, I decided to continue. "We had a conversation when we moved in. That's when I learned he's your ex-husband's father, and also the real reason behind your divorce." "The real reason for the divorce?" Daniel's voice echoed in surprise. Jennifer, no longer trying to pretend, became visibly flustered by my words. "Karen, there must be some misunderstanding. I'm sorry, let's go home together." "Mom, please tell me," Daniel interrupted Jennifer, his expression earnest as he looked at me for answers. It would have been less damaging for Jennifer if this had come to light later, but I had no intention of showing mercy. I instructed the grandchildren to go play in the garden. They glanced at Jennifer but obeyed my request and headed outside. Once the children were fully engaged in their play, I turned back to Jennifer. I heard from Jennifer that her divorce was due to her husband's infidelity, but in reality, it was Jennifer who had an affair. Daniel was visibly shocked, and Jennifer trembled, avoiding my gaze. I can't believe this. Karen, why would you lie about this? Daniel asked, clearly shaken by the revelations. Oh, I also have a copy of the notarized document here. I retrieved the document from a drawer and handed it to Daniel. Daniel's face went pale as he scanned through the document. What's all this? Compensation? Custody to be revisited once the child can choose? Meeting before remarrying? I was never told about any of this. That's right. The other family also claimed they weren't informed about the remarriage, I added. Jennifer stared down, her face drained of color. Daniel sighed heavily and turned to Jennifer, his expression now devoid of his earlier kindness. Remember when I got divorced because I was cheated on? What did you say then? That the one who cheats is entirely at fault, right? Unforgivable, right? Yeah, Jennifer muttered quietly. Daniel's voice grew heated in response to Jennifer's silence. So the story about divorcing to escape from your husband's infidelity and extreme control, putting the kids at risk, was also a lie. What's that about? Jennifer appeared unsure how to answer. Daniel's frustration intensified. And didn't you say, I would never cheat? Daniel pressed on, his voice sharp with anger. I had to say that or you wouldn't have dated me, Jennifer finally replied, her voice tinged with desperation. Right, of course, Daniel retorted sharply, not letting Jennifer finish. Daniel was visibly agitated, his breathing heavy with emotion. Jennifer, on the other hand, began to sulk defiantly. I've heard you've been declining visits since you started dating Daniel and apparently leaving all the housework and childcare to his family. And now you're trying to blame me after remarrying. Why are you making unnecessary accusations? Jennifer shouted at me, her voice loud and defensive. Daniel gave Jennifer a cold, distant look. Her unguarded outburst had shattered the image she had maintained. It's over between us. Let's get a divorce, Daniel stated firmly. No, I don't want a divorce, Jennifer pleaded, clinging to Daniel, who tried to shake her off impatiently. Despite his attempts, Jennifer persisted. Just as Daniel's frustration seemed ready to boil over, an unexpected voice intervened. Mom, you're saying the same things you told Dad. You've got a new boyfriend now, so stop bothering Daniel. Michael, Jennifer's eldest son, spoke with a surprising maturity for his young age. His sudden return from the garden surprised not just me, but everyone present. What? Why are you saying unnecessary things, Michael? Jennifer snapped, clearly caught off guard by her son's unexpected words. What do you mean by a new boyfriend? Daniel asked, squatting down to look at Michael, clearly perplexed. Michael spoke again, maintaining his composure. Whenever you're away, Mom tells me to go to Grandma's house, and then her boyfriend comes to pick me up. Michael, don't lie, Jennifer interjected quickly. Daniel hugged Michael tightly and turned a stern gaze towards Jennifer, who looked taken aback by his genuine anger. We'll talk about this later, including the boyfriend and the compensation, with him present. It's not like that. I love you. It was just a brief fling with that guy, Jennifer pleaded desperately. That guy, huh? Daniel remarked coldly, his disappointment evident. Jennifer looked crestfallen at Daniel's remark. With a resolute expression, Daniel stood up, shielding Michael, and stared coldly at Jennifer. Without hesitation, he forcefully escorted her out of the house. Wait, Daniel. Open the door. The next time we talk will be with a lawyer present. I'll arrange for the kids to see their father. I've already called my parents. They're on their way to pick them up. What do my parents have to do with this? Jennifer continued knocking on the door for a while, but soon the noise ceased. Shortly after, I heard voices arguing and then the doorbell rang. Jennifer's parents stood there, looking apologetic. After entrusting the grandchildren to me, they took Jennifer back with them. Later, the grandchildren were safely introduced to Jennifer's ex-husband's family. It turned out that Jennifer had changed her phone number and moved without informing anyone since she started dating Daniel, making it impossible to reach her. Her ex-husband and his parents were overcome with emotion and embraced the children as soon as they saw them. Although Daniel had already legally adopted the children, transferring custody back to Jennifer's ex-husband took some time due to the legal process. It seems Jennifer's life has taken a sharp turn after the consequences of her actions. Her strict reprimand from her parents and her current work situation at a family-run hotel indicate a stark change in her circumstances. With high alimony payments to both Daniel and her ex-husband, she reportedly has little respite from her duties. I can't stand it anymore. I want to quit, she frequently complains, but her relatives are keeping a tight rein on her. Meanwhile, Daniel, having experienced his second divorce, has sworn off marriage and thrown himself into his work. Despite the lingering shock, I recently learned he's reconnected with a childhood friend who lives nearby and is 10 years his junior. They'd occasionally go out for meals together, and this friend even visited me recently to say hello. It turns out she's harbored feelings for Daniel since they were kids and never pursued other relationships because of her enduring affection for him. As a parent, it warms my heart to see that the young girl who once dreamed of marrying Daniel still holds those feelings into adulthood. Daniel himself seems somewhat pleased by this newfound connection. Living in a house where I was proposed to holds immense significance for me. Despite the alterations Jennifer made, the house has been completely renovated and now serves as a rental property. Living here alone, I never feel lonely. It's as if my husband's presence is still nearby. I cherish each day, anticipating the second phase of my life where I'll gather stories to share with him when we're reunited.
The new year was supposed to be a fresh start, but this time it brought a big surprise. The doorbell rang, breaking the quiet of my cozy home. I thought it might be a neighbor or a delivery person, so I opened the door casually, but I felt like my heart sank when I saw who was there. My sister Claire, who I hadn't wanted to see, and my ex-husband Ethan. Claire had her usual smug smile, looking almost proud next to Ethan. Seeing Ethan was like reopening an old wound. He looked arrogant and pretended to feel sorry. It had been 3 years since I'd seen them, and here they were, acting like nothing had happened. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice trembling with shock. Claire laughed annoyingly. "Oh, look at that, Ethan." She's speechless. "What's wrong, Anna? Not happy to see your dear sister and loving ex-husband?" Ethan leaned against the doorframe, glancing around the room. "Yeah, Anna, we just thought we'd drop by, see how things are without us." I clenched my fists, trying hard not to slam the door on them. "This isn't your place anymore, Ethan. And you, Claire, shouldn't be here either." But they just smirked, unfazed by my attempt to stand up to them. Then Ethan said something that felt like a punch in the gut. "You know, Anna, I regret ever being with you. What a waste of my best years." Claire joined in, pretending to sympathize. Poor Anna, always falling short, even in marriage. Their mean words hurt, but before I could respond, another voice interrupted us. "Who's there, Anna?" It was my dad, George, who I wasn't expecting until later. Claire and Ethan looked surprised to see him, and their smirks disappeared as they shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, you're home early," I said, feeling relieved. George looked at the scene with narrowed eyes. "CLA, Ethan, what are you doing here?" Their confidence vanished under George's stern gaze. There was a tense silence. Claire finally spoke up. We just wanted to wish Anna a happy new year." George was skeptical. "Really? After all this time, you suddenly remember family on New Year's?" His tone was cold, hinting at hidden anger and disappointment. Ethan tried to regain control. "We also have some news, but maybe now's not the time." I knew their visit wasn't just about New Year's greetings. Their sudden arrival, smirks, and insults were all too familiar. A cycle of lies and manipulation. But I wasn't the same person they left behind. As they left awkwardly, promising to come back another time, I closed the door, feeling both relieved and anxious. Their return meant trouble, and this time, I had to be ready. After Claire and Ethan left, the house felt eerily quiet. My dad, George, sat opposite me, his face creased with worry. "Anna, what was that about? Why are they back?" I sighed, feeling the weight of old memories. "I'm not sure, Dad, but with Claire and Ethan, there's always a motive." George nodded grimly. "I remember how it all ended, how they hurt you. You owe them nothing, Anna." His support was comforting, but there was a part of the story he didn't fully grasp. The depth of Claire's manipulation. It dated back to our childhood, a time that should have been carefree but was overshadowed by Claire's selfishness. "Dad, remember my 10th birthday? Grandma's porcelain doll?" I asked, my voice tinged with sadness. George's face softened. "Of course, you cherished that doll." I nodded, the memory vivid. "Claire broke it on purpose, then blamed me. She cried to Mom, saying it was an accident caused by me." George looked surprised. "I never knew that. Your mother always thought it was an accident." "That was just the start," I said, feeling the pain of old memories. "Claire always acted innocent, and I got blamed. She knew how to trick everyone around her." I saw regret in George's eyes, realizing what he hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry, Anna. I should have seen it." "It's not your fault," Dad said, his voice filled with regret. "We were all fooled by Claire," I replied, taking a deep breath. "Even with Ethan, she played us both. They deserve each other." George reached for my hand, offering comfort. "What matters is you're away from their drama now. Don't let them pull you back in." I nodded, trying to force a smile. Talking with Dad reminded me that the past wasn't forgotten. Clara and Ethan's visit wasn't just casual, it hinted at more trouble ahead. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories of Claire's schemes, how she always seemed better than me in our parents' eyes, how she effortlessly won Ethan over. It all haunted me. Her return meant trouble, and I felt a growing sense of dread. But amid the chaos in my mind, I started to feel determined. I wouldn't be a victim again. I'd confront Claire and Ethan. Whatever they were planning, I was ready to fight back. In the days after Claire and Ethan's visit, their words and smirks kept replaying in my mind. I threw myself into work, hoping to distract myself, but the past wouldn't let go. Remembering my marriage to Ethan, once filled with love, now felt like walking on thorns. It all started wonderfully. Ethan was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. We were happy, or so I thought. But then things changed. Late nights, excuses, and avoiding my questions. I trusted him, ignoring my doubts and gut feelings. Then, one day, everything became clear. I came home early from a trip, excited to surprise Ethan. But I was the one surprised. I found Ethan and Claire together, laughing in our living room. It was a moment that shattered my world. The confrontation was a blur of tears, accusations, and painful truths. Claire showed no remorse, simply shrugging off my pain. You were always too focused on work, Anna. Ethan needed someone, and I was there. It's not our fault he lost interest in you. Ethan's words were just as hurtful. I thought I loved you, Anna, but Claire is different, more exciting. We were never right for each other. Their betrayal cut me deeply, shattering my heart and trust. The divorce was swift, with Ethan and Claire flaunting their relationship. I was left to piece together my shattered life, feeling foolish and betrayed. Sitting in my office, memories swirled, igniting anger within me. How dare they come back after what they did? How dare they disrupt my peace? But it wasn't just anger. It was a burning need for justice. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the pain they caused. Revenge, once repulsive, now seemed like the only way to close this chapter. I've decided. I'll confront them, demand answers, but I won't be the heartbroken wife this time. I'll be strong. They underestimated me once. They won't again. I dialed Ethan's number, my voice steady, my resolve unshakable. Ethan, we need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on 5th Street tomorrow at noon. His surprise stammer was a small victory. Sure, Anna. Tomorrow, he replied before the call ended. For the first time in days, I felt in control. The game had begun, and this time I was playing to win. The next day, the cafe was bustling. I spotted Ethan at a corner table, looking tense. His attempted smile didn't reach his eyes. Anna, thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you want to see me, he said, sounding unsure. I don't, I replied sharply, sitting across from him. But I need answers. Why are you and Claire back in my life? Ethan squirmed. Things haven't been great for us after we left. We've had some tough times. I felt a bitter satisfaction seeing him uneasy. Tough times? You expect sympathy from me? No, of course not, he stammered. It's just that Claire is pregnant. We thought it's time to mend fences, for the sake of family. His words hit me hard. Claire pregnant? I felt a twinge of hurt, but skepticism took over. And you expect me to? What? Forgive you just like that? I asked, my voice filled with disbelief. It's not just that, Anna, Ethan said, avoiding my gaze. There's the matter of your father's estate. So that was it, the real reason behind their sudden return. It wasn't remorse or reconciliation. It was greed. You have some nerve, Ethan. You cheat, you leave, and now you come back for money. I felt my anger boiling over, my voice rising in the crowded cafe. People can change, Anna. We've been through a lot. We just want a chance to start over, to be a family, he pleaded. A family built on lies and deceit. I shot back, my heart pounding with anger. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. We need to talk. Alone. My place. Tonight. I glanced at Ethan, my mind made up. Tell Claire I'll see her tonight. But understand, Ethan, this isn't a family reunion. This is me settling the score. Ethan looked taken aback as I stood to leave. I felt a strange sense of power. I'd been their victim for too long. But now, things were changing. I walked out, leaving Ethan behind, my mind racing. Tonight's meeting with Claire wouldn't just be a talk. It would be the start of my revenge, a chance to reclaim my dignity, and make them regret crossing me. Leaving Ethan behind at the cafe left me with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a newfound determination. Driving home, my mind buzzed with plans for confronting Claire later. I needed to brace myself against her manipulative ways. As evening approached, I stood in front of my mirror, mentally preparing. I saw a different woman from the one who once fell for Ethan or got overshadowed by Claire. Tonight, I was ready to face my past head-on. Claire's house was a sharp contrast to mine. Flashy, extravagant, a symbol of her and Ethan's shallow values. I knocked on the door, my heart racing but my resolve strong. When Claire opened it, she looked as poised and arrogant as ever. "Anna, come in. I'm glad you could make it." Her tone dripped with condescension, as if inviting me in was some kind of favor. Stepping inside, I took in the extravagant decor. "So Claire, why am I here? What do you want from me?" I asked, cutting to the chase. Claire led me to the living room, her movements graceful yet calculated. "I wanted to talk to you, sister to sister. It's been too long, and with the baby coming, I thought it's time we buried the hatchet." I almost laughed at her audacity. Bury the hatchet? After you stole my husband and now come back for my father's inheritance? Claire's expression hardened briefly before she composed herself. "Anna, let's be practical. Ethan and I need financial stability for our child. Your father's estate can help with that." Her greed was clear. "You expect me to just hand over what's rightfully mine after everything you've done." "It's not just about the money, Anna," Claire said, falsely sincere. "It's about family. We're still sisters, after all." I stared at her in disbelief. "You lost the right to call me sister when you betrayed me." There was a heavy silence between us, tension thick in the air. Then Claire's mask slipped, revealing her true nature. "Fine. If you're going to be selfish, let's talk legalities. Dad's will favors the first grandchild. My baby will secure the inheritance for Ethan and me." Her words hit me hard. This was her plan, to use her pregnancy to manipulate our father's will in her favor. "You're unbelievable, Claire. You think you can manipulate everyone to get what you want?" "Not this time. I won't let you," I said firmly. Claire smirked, her eyes cold and calculating. "We'll see, Anna. We'll see how long you can keep up this act," she sneered. I turned to leave, my mind spinning. Driving away, a plan began to form. Claire and Ethan were playing a dangerous game, but now I knew the rules. It was time for them to realize I wasn't just a pawn in their twisted game. The days after my confrontation with Claire were filled with intense preparation for the looming legal battle over my father's estate. I sought out legal advice, determined to safeguard what was rightfully mine and my father's legacy from Claire and Ethan's greed. As I delved into the legal details, shocking news reached me. Ethan's business, once touted with confidence, had collapsed. They were drowning in debt, unable to sustain their lavish lifestyle. This revelation shed light on their sudden return and their desperation for the inheritance. Meeting with my lawyer, Miss Harper, we discussed our strategy. "They're financially and legally trapped," she noted, examining the documents. "Your sister's claim about the will doesn't hold up legally. We can challenge it." Miss Harper's confidence was reassuring, but I knew Claire and Ethan wouldn't give up easily. They were like cornered animals, unpredictable and dangerous. My resolve was tested sooner than I anticipated. One evening, returning home from work, I found Claire waiting on my doorstep, her expression a mix of defiance and desperation. "Anna, we need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. "I have nothing to say to you, Claire. This matter is with the lawyers now," I replied, trying to pass by her. She stepped forward, blocking my path. "Please, Anna. I'm not pregnant. It was a lie, a plan Ethan and I made to influence Dad's will." Her confession, though shocking, didn't surprise me. It was just another deceit in their long list. "So you've been lying all this time. What now, Claire? Ready to give up?" I asked coldly. Claire's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't sway me. "I don't know what to do. Ethan's business is ruined. We're losing everything. I need your help, Anna." Her plea for help, after all they'd done, was almost laughable. "You want my help after everything you've done? You're delusional," I said, pulling away from her. "The sister I knew died when you betrayed me. You made your choice, Claire. Live with it." Leaving Claire alone, I entered my house, closing the door on her and our past. It felt liberating. I was free from our toxic relationship. That night, in the quiet of my living room, I realized this was more than an inheritance battle. It was about my liberation, closing the chapter on Claire and Ethan's treachery and moving on. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal battles. Claire and Ethan's desperation grew as their financial troubles mounted. Despite it all, I remained strong, with Miss Harper's help and my newfound resolve. The day of the court hearing arrived, the atmosphere tense and charged. The courtroom was cold, contrasting sharply with the simmering emotions within. Ethan and Claire sat together, trying to maintain a facade of unity, but their strained appearances betrayed their true feelings. As the proceedings began, Miss Harper skillfully dismantled each of their arguments. Claire's lie about her pregnancy was exposed, further weakening their case. I watched Claire as the reality sank in. The confident, manipulative sister I once knew was gone, replaced by someone consumed by the consequences of her actions. During a recess, Claire approached me, desperation in her eyes. "Anna, please. I know I don't deserve your mercy, but we're ruined. We have nothing." Her words, once persuasive, now had no effect on me. "You brought this upon yourselves, Claire. You chose greed and deceit, and now you must face the consequences." The final judgment was a clear win for me. The judge ruled in my favor, ensuring that the inheritance rightfully stayed with me. Claire and Ethan left the courtroom defeated, their schemes crumbling. But as I walked out, a sense of closure washed over me. This wasn't just a legal win. It was a personal victory over my past demons. Claire and Ethan's downfall was the justice they deserved. But for me, it marked a new beginning, free from the pain they caused. In the days that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life, leaving behind the shadows of Claire and Ethan. The scar they left would always be a part of me, but it no longer controlled me. I had become stronger, more resilient, and had a better understanding of myself and my values. As I sat in my garden one evening, watching the sunset, I understood that real victory wasn't in revenge or the pain of those who hurt me. It was in the peace and inner strength I discovered, the power to move on and embrace new beginnings. "Why won't you talk to me?" I asked. "I've decided not to talk to people I don't know." "I understand. I'll go away." Living with my husband's parents, they completely ignored me. I thought my mother-in-law might ignore me, but I never expected my father-in-law to treat me the same way. There was a reason why they changed. It was because my sister-in-law, who didn't like me, came back home. Since she returned, our peaceful life together turned upside down. "Don't regret it, okay? You think I'll regret leaving? Think again, meanie." I packed my things and left my in-laws' house. Just 3 days after I left, there was chaos in their home. I met my husband at work. He worked in sales and often came to my office, and I was his main contact. As we spent more time together in meetings, I started to like him. He was caring and kind, tall, and not exactly what you'd call handsome, but he had a charming personality. He was well-liked, but for some reason, he said he liked me, and we started dating. When we talked, he told me he grew up in a normal family with parents and a sister. I lost my parents when I was young and grew up in an orphanage. It was a hard thing for me, but when we started dating, I told him about my past. He said, "That sounds tough, but don't worry, I'll always be here for you." Not long after, he asked me to marry him. He always wanted our relationship to lead to marriage and quickly introduced me to his parents. When I told them about growing up in the orphanage, they listened carefully and reassured me it wouldn't affect our marriage. It made me really happy. They even said that my background didn't matter in becoming their daughter-in-law, which made me feel really good. But my sister-in-law, who was very close to her brother, seemed surprised, asking, "You grew up in an orphanage?" My husband had to scold her. Looking back, she probably didn't like me from the start. I didn't think much of it then, just assuming we were still getting to know each other. Before we got married, my husband and I talked about moving in with his parents. We thought about it seriously, but I decided to keep my job. My husband was going to be transferred soon, and although I considered quitting to move with him, my career was going well, and I had just been given more responsibilities at work. We discussed it and agreed he would move alone. After our wedding, I wanted to enjoy being newlyweds for a while. I even thought about visiting my husband during long weekends to have a May vacation together. Moving in with my in-laws right after getting married seemed a bit overwhelming, but my husband probably felt more comfortable living with them. Also, he might have wanted us to live together to ease his mom's worries. Since I lost my parents when I was young, I always wished for a family, so living with them didn't seem entirely bad. Besides, my in-laws had always been nice to me, and I grew to like them. It was tough juggling work and my role as a daughter-in-law, but having a family made me happy and complete. One day, my father-in-law came to me with a surprising request. It was the beginning of some trouble in our seemingly happy living arrangement. It happened when my usually anxious mother-in-law, who often acted bossy towards my father-in-law, was out shopping. I was getting ready to do some cleaning on my day off when my father-in-law asked to talk to me. "What's up?" "Well, I don't want my wife to find out, but I need to take time off from work." "Time off?" I asked, surprised. He explained that he'd been having problems with his boss and coworkers, and his health had gotten so bad that he had no choice but to take a break. My mother-in-law is a nice person, but she's always anxious and a bit overworried. Living with them, I notice how she tends to fret a lot, and my father-in-law walked on eggshells around her to avoid upsetting her. He had always been on the thin side, but lately I realized he seemed to have lost some weight. It would have been nice if my mother-in-law genuinely cared about my father-in-law's weight loss. But when he took a sick day because of a cold before, she said, "A cold? Everyone else at work is climbing the career ladder. You're always taking days off for health reasons. That's why you're not getting promoted." Instead of being concerned, she tended to criticize him. He probably tried his best to keep going, no matter how bad he felt. But his health got worse, and he secretly took time off to go to the hospital. He was struggling both mentally and physically. With him leaving work early, often being late, and calling in sick, there was talk about him needing to take a break from work. But he didn't want to upset my mother-in-law at any cost. If he suggested taking time off, she'd likely get really angry. Also, my father-in-law didn't earn much, and he relied on extra pay from working overtime. Taking time off would mean a significant drop in income. If he told my husband, he might tell my mother-in-law, so he came to me, asking if I could help with the bills. If I mentioned taking a break, she might even leave me, he said. Hearing that hurt, I was grateful to my in-laws who had accepted me warmly, regardless of my past in an orphanage. Wanting to support him, I decided to help him out during this tough time. "Okay, I'll send you money every month. Use it for expenses." "I'm really sorry. I'll try to get better soon and go back to work. Thank you so much." After that, my father-in-law continued to pretend to go to work while I sent money to his bank account for living expenses. My mother-in-law wasn't very thorough with checking her bank statements, so she didn't notice my transfers. He'd act like he was going to work, but instead went to a mental health clinic or went for walks in the peaceful mountains. Over time, he started looking better. I thought he might go back to work soon, but then something unexpected happened. After a fight with her husband, my sister-in-law went back to her parents' home. There's nothing like being back home. I thought I'd lose my mind if I stayed with that stupid husband of mine. I'll be here for a while. Can you make meals for me too? I knew from the start that my sister-in-law didn't like me. At our first family meeting, my husband was upset because she clearly showed her disapproval. During our wedding, she had a sour look the whole time and even told me straight out, "My brother looks great, but you, he could have married someone prettier." She openly judged me for being raised in an institution, saying it was embarrassing that I didn't have parents at the wedding. However, she got married before us and had already moved out, so I thought I wouldn't have to deal with her much. That's why I thought it would be okay to live with them. If she had still been living at home, I wouldn't have even considered moving in, knowing how she would treat me every day. I thought her stay was just temporary because of her marriage problems and expected her to leave in a few days. Even though she was stern with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law had never been harsh towards me. Even if my sister-in-law made mean comments, I believed my mother-in-law would defend me. But I was wrong. One day, when I came back from work, my mother-in-law's behavior seemed strange. "Is something bothering you?" I asked. She seemed distant, not talking to me like usual. When I asked her what was wrong, she said, "Did you know you've been talking about me behind my back?" "What? I've never said anything bad about you. You've always been kind to me, and I'm really thankful. Why would I say bad things about you? You've been acting like the perfect daughter-in-law, but you've been talking behind my back." "Whatever," she said, leaving the room. In the hallway, my sister-in-law was smirking. "Looks like you're not in her good books anymore. Did your true colors come out? Being from an orphanage, your background really does matter, huh? It's best not to gossip about people, you know." "I haven't said anything bad about her." "Oh, The neighbors seemed to have heard everything. When I came back home after so long, they told me you've been talking badly about her all the time. What? Who are these neighbors? Well, it's been a while since I got married and moved out, so I kind of forgot their names. I never said any of that. Stop making things up. Oh, how disrespectful. Mom, she's calling me a liar and being mean to me, my sister-in-law said as she walked into my mother-in-law's room. After that, my sister-in-law's mean behavior got worse. She claimed I told her to sleep in the hallway and take the last turn for a bath because she's just a guest. She complained to my mother-in-law about every little thing. Every time, I had to explain I hadn't said or done any of it. But my mother-in-law seemed to believe my sister-in-law and be influenced by her. My sister-in-law stayed longer, making me wonder if she planned to stay forever. With all these worries, I went home feeling sad. I'm back. Before, my mother-in-law would warmly say, "Welcome back," but now it was quiet. "I'll start making dinner," I said, stepping into the living room. I was surprised. Usually, my sister-in-law would rush me to make dinner, but now my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law were eating sushi together. Surprised, my sister-in-law said, "Oh, looks like someone who isn't really family is here. You were planning on having sushi, were you?" My mother-in-law kept eating without looking at me, watching TV. "If you wanted sushi, you should have told me. I came home right after shopping," I said. "Ha! No one said they wanted that," my sister-in-law replied, not even looking at me. "Hey, Mom, Dad, I went out with my friends during the day and got some delicious pudding. Let's eat together," my sister-in-law said, ignoring me. They all started eating the pudding. I was tired from work and didn't have the energy to argue, so I went to my room without eating. The next day, my sister-in-law said she was going out with friends and asked me to drive her to the station. I said no because it was a weekday and I had work. Even if we were going in the same direction, it was a different route, and she wanted to leave around noon. I couldn't do it. "Just take the day off. It's fine. Your cute little sis-in-law just wants a ride. She hasn't had a chance to relax since she got married, right? Can't you be a bit nicer to her now?" she said. "With all due respect, didn't you go out with friends last night after getting a late call? It seems like you've been going out almost every day since you came home. I have work. Please take the bus or train." My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were talking quietly, but I was done and left for work. However, that night, the event that made me decide to leave this house happened. I got delayed at work and came home after buying groceries, expecting to face some criticism. It was raining heavily when I left the office, and I got soaked just getting in and out of the car. I wondered what nasty surprise was waiting for me tonight. But when I got home, they were all eating takeout again, just like the day before. No hello, acting like they didn't see me. But I was used to it. I looked out into the courtyard from the hallway and saw something in the middle of the garden. Looking closer, I saw it was my stuff. My designer bag that I bought with my first paycheck, shoes that were a birthday gift from my husband, and even my work computer, all wet. I was shocked, and my sister-in-law said with a smirk, "Having the strangers' things in the house grossed me out, so I threw them out." Flaunting a designer bag like that, how arrogant of you. Neither of my in-laws said anything about her terrible behavior. "Why didn't you stop her? Have I done something to you? Do you really believe her lies about me badmouthing you and bullying her? Aren't you upset with her for what she did?" I asked. My mother-in-law avoided my eyes and stayed silent. "Why won't you say anything?" I asked again. "I can't talk to strangers. I can't be friendly with someone who's not family," my mother-in-law replied, not even looking at me. My sister-in-law grinned, waiting for me to respond. "Wait, where's my father-in-law? I've been the one supporting him during his time off. I've been the one handling finances in this house. I did it out of gratitude, but shouldn't he stand up for me now? Surely he'd be on my side." Hoping for his support, I looked at him, but he walked past me without a word and went into his room. That was it for me. "I see. I've had enough." "Oh, are you upset?" "I'm sorry. Honestly, I never liked you from the start. You know, being from an institution and all. Just don't regret leaving," my sister-in-law said. As if I would. "Good riddance," I replied. I packed my things and got ready to leave right away. Only my father-in-law seemed worried because he relied on me financially. But even he didn't try to stop me or speak up for me. I was done with his indifference. Although my husband's work assignment was far away, I just wanted to get out of that house as soon as possible. I quickly got into my car and drove to him. I never talked to my husband about any of this. I doubt my mother-in-law told him about my sister-in-law coming back home. If he knew, he would have reached out to me because he knows I don't get along with her. But my husband never mentioned anything about my sister-in-law in his calls or messages. I never doubted my husband's behavior before, but maybe she's manipulating him, feeding him lies about things. Even now, as I go to him, he might treat me the same way they did. My heart was heavy, feeling suspicious even toward my husband, whom I trust the most. If he's siding with them, maybe divorce is the only option. That's how distressed I felt. When I arrived at his out-of-state apartment, he hadn't returned yet, probably busy since it was the end of the month. As I waited, my husband came in energetically, maybe noticing the lights. "What? You're here? You should have told me you were coming. I would have come back sooner." "What a pleasant surprise." "No, just seeing your face," he said with a big smile. Seeing him happy to see me after all that happened at my in-laws' house, mixed with relief and humiliation, and I couldn't hold back my tears. "What's wrong? Did I do something?" "Seriously, what's going on?" he asked, concerned. It seemed my husband had no clue about the treatment I endured at his parents' house. I gathered myself, knowing I needed to explain everything clearly to him. I started recounting everything. How I've been financially helping his father who took medical leave without telling his wife, how his sister returned and was now staying at their parents' house, how she lied about me to his mother, turning her against me, how they treated me like an outsider, ignored me, and even ruined my belongings by leaving them out in the rain. Through tears and pauses, I poured out everything to him. Finally, I made it clear that I couldn't go back to that house ever again. And if he couldn't support me on this, I would want a divorce. My husband apologized for being too focused on work and not checking in on me more often. He regretted his family's behavior towards me. He assured me I didn't have to go back there or even talk to them again. Even if I forgave them someday, he was firm about cutting ties with his parents and sister. He also promised not to provide any more financial aid to his father. That night, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. The tension I'd been carrying melted away, and I slept peacefully by his side. After leaving my in-laws' house, I never went back. Commuting from my husband's out-of-state place wasn't practical, but I had already talked to my company about working remotely. My job didn't require me to be in the office all the time, and many of my colleagues worked from home too. Although I still had to visit the office a few times a month, some colleagues lived even farther away, so working remotely wasn't a problem. Living with my in-laws and dealing with my sister-in-law's bullying, I hadn't truly experienced married life. But now we could finally live like newlyweds. As I set up my remote workstation, as expected, my sister-in-law contacted me. It turned out that the day after I left their house was my father-in-law's payday. My mother-in-law usually takes out a certain amount and transfers it to their household account, but this time she couldn't. It was only then that she realized I had been helping them financially during my father-in-law's time off. "Hey, why didn't you tell me you were covering the living expenses?" He asked me not to, saying he didn't want you to know, so I kept it to myself. Anyway, we're running out of money for living expenses and there's no one to cook or do laundry. The place is a mess. As his wife, you need to come back and take care of these things and send money quickly. How heartless. I already told you, didn't I? I have no intention of going back to that house or being treated like your maid. Why should I help people who hate me, ruin my things, and treat me like this? Aren't you his wife? Without your help, we can't pay the bills or even shop. That's exactly why I'm saying it. I'm an outsider, so it's none of my business, right? I hung up, ignoring my sister-in-law's complaints. She and my mother-in-law kept bothering me with calls and messages, but I ignored all of them. Even after my husband returned from work, they kept calling persistently. When my husband finally answered, he told them firmly, "I will forgive you for how you treated her, and I'm not sending her back to you. I'm not coming back either. I don't see you as my family anymore. Leave my wife alone, or you'll regret it." Considering my sister-in-law adored her brother and my mother-in-law heavily relied on him, they were probably shocked. A few days later, I got a call from my father-in-law. He said living with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law was getting too hard, and he begged me to continue the financial help. I'm grateful they accepted me when I married, despite growing up in an orphanage. But they didn't support me when I needed it, despite all the financial help I provided. I don't owe them anything. Why should I help those who joined others in ignoring me? I'll never assist you again. And with that, I ended the call. Later on, my persistent mother-in-law and sister-in-law shamelessly showed up at my workplace. Since I was already working remotely and had a bad feeling about them, I had informed my company about the situation. Security was alerted right away. They caused a scene, demanding that the company make me send money back home. When my husband heard about it, he said, "Report them to the police." My colleagues were supportive, saying, "I can't believe you had to live with those people. Focus on your remote work with your husband." As for my in-laws, my father-in-law's health declined under the pressure from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and he eventually quit his job. My sister-in-law tried to return to her husband's family, but he refused to take her back. The town quickly learned about her drama at my workplace, causing an uproar at her in-law's place. The real reason for their fight was her affair, and this incident added to their problems, leading to an immediate decision to divorce. Left without a home, my in-laws and sister-in-law moved to a cheap apartment, managing with part-time jobs. As for my husband and me, we're finally enjoying peaceful days, feeling mentally and physically fulfilled. Recently, we found out we're expecting a child, and we couldn't be happier. We're eagerly awaiting the day we meet our baby, cherishing our time together.
This house is really tough. My parents are both bedridden, and my older brother uses a wheelchair. Should keep your voice down, they might hear you. But I need to say it out loud. Imagine being in my shoes. I come home tired from work every day, only to find a house full of sick people. It's really sad. Lately, when my husband gets home, he starts complaining right away. I'm scared his complaints will wake my in-laws and Bill, who are sleeping in the other rooms. But Brian, you just lie down and ask about dinner and a shower. You never check on your family. I've been saying this. I'm exhausted from work and can't handle everything alone. If you won't help, you can't complain. Wait, are you misunderstanding something here? Misunderstand what? Taking care of the house is your job, isn't it? Who do you think pays the bills here? Don't act like you're better than me. You couldn't survive without me. My name is Rachel and I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 6 years. I lost my parents in a car accident when I was in elementary school and grew up in foster care until I finished high school. After that, I found a job at a factory that makes electronic parts, which is part of a big company that makes electrical equipment. My husband joined the main company a year after I started working there. We met when he came to work at our factory, started dating, and later got married. Before we got married, my husband Bill worked as a freelance system engineer and lived alone in a rented apartment that he also used as his office. After we got married, we moved in with his parents. When I first met my in-laws, they welcomed me warmly, even though they knew I grew up in foster care. I had often felt looked down upon because I didn't have parents, so their kindness meant a lot to me. A few years ago, my mother-in-law fell ill and became mostly bedridden. I decided to quit my job and became a full-time homemaker to take care of her. On her better days, she taught me how to do household chores, which I wasn't very good at. Now I have 2 sons, and I always wanted to cook together with my daughter-in-law someday. I'm so glad you're here, Rachel. I often found myself thinking, if my mom were still alive, would we have spent time together in the kitchen like this? Sometimes when I made a mistake while cooking, my husband would criticize me, but my in-laws would eat quietly without complaining. She put a lot of effort into it, so just eat quietly instead of complaining. My father-in-law would scold my husband. Bill visited us only once a month, but he always had a smile on his face. He would bring sweets from famous shops and share them with me. He was always considerate and kind, like a real brother. Being part of their family made me truly happy. However, 3 years ago when my father-in-law retired, my mother-in-law got pneumonia and became mostly bedridden. She had been looking forward to traveling with her husband after his retirement, so it was devastating for her. I did everything I could to cheer her up. My father-in-law, now retired, took an active role in caring for her. Bill also came over to help out, and slowly but surely, her smile returned. The next year, my father-in-law also fell ill. He spent about 2 months in the hospital, and like my mother-in-law, became mostly bedridden. Surprisingly, my husband didn't visit him in the hospital, but Bill visited often and helped care for him, which was a huge relief. Taking care of his father without complaint is only natural, Bill would say to me. On the other hand, my husband hasn't been helping with my mother-in-law's care at all, not even when I'm at the hospital. I have a job, you know. It's not like John's laid-back situation where he can stay at home, my husband argues. It frustrates me, but with John's help, we managed while my father-in-law was in the hospital. Now, though, we have to take care of both of them. I thought it was normal to care for my in-laws, but it's disappointing that my husband isn't cooperative at all. Hey, could you pitch in a bit on your days off? I asked him. I think it would make your mom and dad happy. I don't have time for that, he replied. John doesn't even live here, but he always comes to help out. Why don't you do anything when you live here? That's because he doesn't live here. Be grateful I'm even staying here, my husband retorted. As time passed, my husband's language grew even harsher. I never realized he could be so hurtful, and my disappointment only deepened. John's visits to check on his parents and help with shopping and chores were a huge relief. I was starting to adjust to this routine, hoping we could make it work. But then John had a car accident and suffered a severe spinal injury. Now he's in a wheelchair. Why does everything bad keep happening? I lamented, feeling very upset. With John now in a wheelchair, he had to move back in with his parents. Another mouth to feed, great. Is this your fault? What are you talking about? Ever since I married you, it's been one disaster after another. Are you some kind of jinx? My husband exclaimed. His words made me wonder if there was some truth to it. Maybe I was bringing bad luck to everyone around me. Should I just disappear? But if I left, what would happen to my in-laws and John? I couldn't imagine my husband taking care of all three of them. Since John moved back in, my husband rarely came home. He spent long hours at work, had business dinners, played golf, or went out with friends on his days off. John is adjusting to life in a wheelchair and can manage some things on his own, but not everything. He's still the same kind-hearted person he was before the accident. Sometimes I wonder if he and my husband are really brothers. My in-laws and John have been hurt by how my husband treats me. They've even said I could leak him if I wanted to, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Then one night, my husband came home drunk and brought a woman with him. "Hey, I'm home. This is my maid," my husband slurred, introducing the woman. "Come on, she must be your wife. She actually looks like a maid though." "Who are you?" "I'm Brian's girlfriend. He said he wanted to show me what his wife looks like, so here I am." "I didn't expect such an old lady though," the woman said arrogantly. "What's your problem coming to my house? Chill out. I brought Brian home because he's drunk. You could at least thank me," my husband slurred in response. "Don't act so superior, maid," he added before passing out. "Don't sleep here, Brian," she said, trying to wake him up. "Oh well, I can't help it. I'll leave him to you," she shrugged and left. I was on the verge of tears, staring at my drunken husband snoring in the hallway. I wish I were just a maid. At least then I wouldn't feel so embarrassed. I could keep things professional. The next morning, I confronted my husband about bringing a woman home. "What's the big deal?" "I'm hungover this early in the morning, you know." "The woman who came back with you yesterday said she was your girlfriend." "She said that, huh? Is it true?" "Yeah, it is," my husband smirked, showing no remorse. I felt my heart grow cold as he admitted his affair so casually. "So you've been cheating?" "Well, I guess you could say that, but you're not even a woman to me anymore." "What do you mean? Why do you think I married you?" "I thought you would make a good maid. My mother was often sick and I needed someone to take care of her when necessary. That's why I married you, plain and simple." "I don't understand." "A woman without a family won't complain, no matter how I treat her. You have nowhere else to go, so you have to stay here." Well, I didn't expect my father and brother would also need care. But whether it's one person or three, it's all the same. As my husband laughed and joked about it, I felt my strength draining away. Had he always seen me this way? The realization that he married me for these reasons brought tears to my eyes. Seeing my distress, my husband laughed again. "I'll leave you here, so make sure you take good care of them and don't complain about whatever I do outside. You don't have the right to do that. You're just a housekeeper and a caregiver," my husband declared. I was too exhausted to argue further, and leaving wasn't an option either. Like my husband pointed out, I had nowhere else to go and no one else to rely on. But more than anything, I couldn't bear to abandon my in-laws and Bill, who had shown me such kindness. They had given me a sense of belonging and warmth that I had never known before. How could I possibly leave them behind? If I divorce my husband, I'll become a stranger to them. They're the only family I have, and I can't let go of that feeling, I thought to myself. Seeing that I couldn't argue back, my husband grew even more audacious. He didn't hesitate to use foul language in front of my in-laws and Bill. "I'm so unlucky, burdened by these three. I need to blow off some steam or I can't take it anymore," he complained. From my perspective, he wasn't doing anything to help around the house or with caregiving. Instead, he did as he pleased, including having affairs. It seemed like he was enjoying himself while I struggled. "Oh well, I'm taking my paid leave next month and going on a trip." "A trip to Hawaii with my girlfriend," my husband announced. "What? So it's a vacation with your girlfriend while I handle everything at home?" I responded incredulously. "You're technically my wife, but you're not my main woman. You're just a caregiver, so this isn't an affair trip." "It's a trip with my main woman," he explained casually. I was left speechless by his brazen declaration. There was no use arguing with him anymore, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to argue or even feel angry anymore. I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. His announcement about going on a trip with his girlfriend didn't stir a hint of jealousy in me. It made me realize once again that I had no feelings left for my husband. The only reason I stayed was for my in-laws and Bill. I couldn't bear to leave them behind. That was all that mattered to me. My husband proudly shared his plans for a trip with his mistress with his family. But my in-laws and Bill looked at him with cold eyes. So the following month my husband left on his affair trip, full of excitement. "You take care of the three of them without any trouble. That's all you're good for," he told me before leaving. Instead of feeling angry, I felt relieved that I wouldn't have to listen to his sarcastic remarks for at least a week. That night I enjoyed a peaceful evening, and my in-laws and Bill seemed a bit happier. And then I slept well. The next morning I woke up late and rushed downstairs. Oh no, I overslept. You must all be hungry. But when I rushed into the living room, I was stunned by what I saw. It felt surreal, as if I were still dreaming. Was this real? I had seen this scene so many times in my dreams. "What's the matter, Rachel? You look like you've seen a ghost," Mama said with a smile. "I think I need to wake up properly," I mumbled, turning to go back to my bedroom. "You're definitely awake, Rachel. This isn't a dream. We're in the middle of a strategy meeting," Mama reassured me. In the living room, there was a whiteboard set up, and Bill was standing in front of it, writing something. The board read, "Escape Plan." I couldn't believe my eyes. Why was Bill standing? Where was his wheelchair? I glanced around and noticed it folded up in a corner of the hallway. "Come on, Rachel. Don't just stand there. Come sit at the table," Mama urged me. Isn't this a dream?" I asked, still trying to grasp the reality of the situation. "Well, shall we execute the plan?" Phil said with a mischievous smile, standing up. Mama also rose from her seat, ready to follow him. I nearly collapsed seeing the three of them, who were supposed to be frail and bedridden, standing before me. And then a whirlwind week unfolded. When my husband returned from his trip, he called with an excited voice. "I'm at the airport now, heading home with my girlfriend. Have dinner ready. She'll be living with us from now on. Don't worry, you'll stay right here, taking care of us," playing the role of a housemaid for both me and her. "Oh, I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. "Then you're a pitiful woman, you know. You can't even complain when your husband brings another woman home. You have nowhere else to go, no family to rely on. You're stuck clinging on to me. Anyway, keep on serving me," he taunted. He seemed to be reveling in his own satisfaction, pleased that everything was going according to his plan. I remained silent. An hour later I received a frantic call from him, a stark contrast from his earlier tone. "What? What's going on? What do you mean there's a stranger in our house?" "Oh, they must have moved in," I replied calmly. "Who are they? What are you talking about?" "Well, it's a rental property, isn't it? Once we moved out, it's rented to someone else. The real estate agent said he appreciated how well we kept the place clean," my husband explained. "What do you mean, we moved out?" "Our home was a rented single-family house we moved into when we got married. It was meant for us and my in-laws, with Phil covering the rent," I clarified. Indeed, most of our living expenses were covered by Phil. Initially, my husband contributed to utilities and other costs. However, as my mother-in-law and Phil's health declined, he started withholding his contributions, arguing that his presence alone was enough support. Bill had reservations about his brother's behavior but didn't feel he could say much after moving out. Then he had a traffic accident that left him partially paralyzed initially. He believed it would be a permanent condition but began recovering surprisingly quickly, though it seemed temporary. This prompted him to move back in with his parents. Despite my in-laws actually improving in health, Bill and Mama pretended to still be frail to deceive my husband. They started planning to leave the house, with Bill's help being crucial for their scheme. This led him to return home. My in-laws had secretly purchased a retirement home with their savings and retirement funds, preparing for the future. Bill handled all the paperwork while they decided on their move. Upon discovering my husband's trip with his mistress, they decided it was time to put their plan into action. I was completely taken aback when they revealed their plan to me. To make matters better, they had already arranged a place for me to stay, they said. "I apologize for keeping this from you as well, Rachel. I thought you might not be able to keep this secret because you're such an honest person." "There's no way to thank you enough for everything you've done for us," my in-laws said as they held my hand and smiled. "I wish I could spend more time with them," I said tearfully. "You have your own life, dear. You don't have to be tied down to us. My parents are in good hands with me around, Rachel. You don't have to worry about a thing. But you know you're always welcome to visit. You mean more to us than a real daughter. We sincerely pray for your happiness." I was so overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness that I couldn't stop crying. When I told my husband about this, he was speechless. He must have turned pale, as he had his eyes on my Phil's retirement funds. He used to tell me to get hold of my Phil's bank card. Now he realized that's not going to happen. "Where am I supposed to live? What about my stuff?" he demanded. You didn't have much stuff. The furniture and appliances belonged to my Phil. Your parents sold your belongings, including expensive bags and watches, and gave me the money as a down payment for alimony, I explained. Down payment for what? He asked, bewildered. It's alimony for all the verbal abuse you've subjected me to. And I'll also claim additional alimony for your affair, I asserted. What? I'm not paying alimony to a caregiver, he retorted. It doesn't matter what you say. Legally, I was your wife, so I have the right to claim alimony from both you and your mistress, I replied firmly. Well, that settles it, he muttered, defeated. Wait, where are you now? Let's meet and talk, he pleaded. No way, I never want to see your face again, and I'm not telling you where I am, I replied firmly. No way. I'll send the divorce papers and alimony claim to your office, I stated resolutely. After that, he made numerous attempts to contact me, but I blocked him. Despite his reluctance to proceed with the divorce, Bill hired a lawyer, and we managed to finalize it. I received a lump sum payment for alimony. As it turned out, the woman he cheated with was married to his friend, and her furious husband confronted him at his office, exposing everything. This led to my husband losing his job. The woman was also kicked out of her house after her affair with my husband was discovered before their trip together. Initially, my husband had planned for them to return home together, but their relationship fell apart. Unable to secure a new job, he now struggles with debts from his past lavish spending and alimony payments, juggling multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. He asked my Bill for help, but of course, he refused and brushed it off with a laugh. Later on, I found a new job thanks to a referral from Phil, and I'm truly enjoying my work every day. I still regularly meet with my in-laws, who treat me like their own daughter. I always eagerly anticipate our time together. Additionally, Bill has found happiness with a wonderful woman whom he's marrying. She's incredibly kind, and they make a perfect pair. I was deeply moved when Bill invited me to their wedding. When he said, I would be honored if you could attend as my sister, I couldn't hold back my tears. I'm hopeful that I can maintain this wonderful relationship with my in-laws and Bill for years to come. My name is Mia. I'm 24 years old and work full-time. I've been dating a guy at work who's a year older than me for 3 years now, and we've decided to get married. In public, my mom behaved very differently. It happened when my boyfriend was around. I was prepared for her to say something mean to him, but she surprised me by being kind. The reason behind her behavior was that my boyfriend's dad held a high position in a big company, and my boyfriend was going to join that company after gaining more experience at his current job. My mom was thinking about the future and wanted to improve her image now so she could get help later on. Because my boyfriend believed my mom's act completely, I couldn't talk to him about what my mom was really like. My sister has always treated me like I'm beneath her. She would make fun of me, pointing out how differently our parents treated us. I have an older sister who's 3 years older than me. She's already married and lives away from our family home. I still live with our parents. My mom especially favors my sister a lot, which has always been clear to me. Even though my dad also seems to prefer my sister, he does care about me too, which is reassuring. I've been eager to move out of my parents' house and live with my boyfriend, but my mom won't let me for some reason. Even though my sister moved out to live with her husband before they got married, I can't understand why I'm not allowed to do the same. I think part of it is because my mom wants me around to help out at home, but part of it feels like she's being unfair. In public, my mom behaved very differently. It happened when my boyfriend was around. I was prepared for her to say something mean to him, but she surprised me by being kind. The reason behind her behavior was that my boyfriend's dad held a high position in a big company, and my boyfriend was going to join that company after gaining more experience at his current job. My mom was thinking about the future and wanted to improve her image now so she could get help later on. Because my boyfriend believed my mom's act completely, I couldn't talk to him about what my mom was really like. My sister has always treated me like I'm beneath her. She would make fun of me, pointing out how differently our parents treated us. I was fed up with my older sister who always acted like she was better than me, even though she's just 4 years older. She married a guy who's 2 years older than her and works for a well-known company, earning a good salary. She never let me forget it. But once she found out my boyfriend would soon work for his dad, an executive at a big company, she stopped bragging about her husband. My sister used to visit our parents almost every weekday. I'm not sure what she did with our stay-at-home mom, but when I got home from work, she'd look at me with pity and wouldn't offer any comfort. I work too, so I managed to save a bit of money each month for my future. It's not much, but it adds up. My sister, on the other hand, doesn't need to work because her husband earns enough. She's proud of their lifestyle, even though she didn't earn that money herself. Have you saved any money for your future? She asked me once. Well, sort of. I have some in a bank account, I replied. I withdrew it once for wedding expenses and it's safe for now. We're also saving for the wedding, so I'm doing some calculations. I see, my mom remarked. There was money in the safe. Yes, temporarily, I said. I wondered why she was asking, but it turned out to cause a big argument later on. The expenses for our wedding were supposed to be shared by both families, but since his parents were more enthusiastic about the ceremony, they agreed to cover a larger portion. We decided to handle the down payment ourselves. When my sister got married, her in-laws also contributed significantly, which was a relief for our modest family. About a month later, as usual, my sister stormed into our family home. However, what caught my attention this time was her car. The car was parked proudly, almost flaunting itself. It was a popular model. I assumed she had bought it with her husband's money, but this time it was different. "Mia, have you seen my car?" "Huh? Your car?" I hadn't noticed." "That's good. Mom bought it for me." I was quite surprised. I couldn't help but wonder where the money came from. It wasn't a luxury car, but it was a new model worth nearly $30,000. I was astonished by how much my family favored my sister, even buying her a car. It was shocking. "You must be happy about this, right? Don't forget to thank Mia." "What? Why should she thank me?" I was completely baffled by what Mom was saying, but they both gave me a sly smile. "That's right. We used your money to buy it." "Huh? Thanks a lot, Mia." I didn't understand what they were talking about, and I felt confused. "The $30,000 in the safe, we used it to buy your sister's car. That was supposed to be your wedding fund, but it's okay, right? We're family," Mom said, giving me a mean grin. "But that wasn't my money. It wasn't even for my wedding." "Huh?" Mom's expression turned serious instantly. Thinking back on it now, it almost makes me laugh. My sister beside me was also surprised. I had already managed my money and returned it to my bank account. I hadn't even saved up to $30,000. But for some reason Mom was looking at me skeptically. Dad mentioned he hadn't withdrawn the wedding expenses yet. So isn't that different money in the safe? As we looked at each other, Mom and my sister seemed to be trying to piece together what they knew about whose money it was. "I can't confirm whose it is," I said, but Mom thought I was bluffing and smirked at my uncertainty. I had seen an envelope marked $30,000 when I borrowed the safe from Dad before, so it's definitely not my money. "Anyway," they said, "we're grateful to you, Mia. Take good care of the car. It's wrong to lay hands on someone else's money without permission." They both misunderstood things and just let the conversation drop, but Mom will regret this big mistake she made. My sister drove home in her new car and Mom went out shopping. I was left alone in the living room, feeling more and more eager to leave this house as soon as possible. Looking back, neither my mother nor my sister ever congratulated me on my upcoming marriage. Mom made a big deal out of my sister's wedding, celebrating joyfully when she heard the news. Meanwhile, both my sister and Mom practically pressured me into giving a $1,000 gift. Mom was thrilled and closely followed the details of my sister's wedding, eagerly looking at photos of the venue. However, when it came to my wedding, which was planned to be much more modest and affordable compared to my sister's lavish affair, she clearly showed her disappointment and gave me a cold response. Regardless, even before my sister got married, I had to endure constant bragging about her husband's income, looks, and personality. Information I never asked for kept coming my way. She would say things like, "Honestly, I doubt you'll ever find someone as amazing as my guy." It's the kind of thing a sister should never say to her younger sibling. I focused on my work, hoping to one day look back on my tough life at my parents' house and how I met my current boyfriend. He's a high achiever at our workplace, where we both work. As I mentioned earlier, he's soon moving to a major corporation where his father is an executive. Our current job is subcontracted by his father's company, so we earn a decent income. Initially, the company was discussing how much my boyfriend would transfer to his father's company after gaining experience at our current workplace. Supporting my boyfriend's growth and ensuring a smooth transition would benefit our business relationship with clients. When my sister first found out that my boyfriend worked at the same company as me, she made a rude comment, saying, "He's just like you." However, after I explained his future prospects, she went quiet. It might be because the company he's moving to is even bigger than my brother-in-law's company. My sister's patronizing attitude hasn't changed since we were kids. Our parents always favored her, buying her any toy she wanted without question. My dad, feeling sorry for me, would spend time playing with me. But my sister, who's good at pleasing others, sometimes manipulated him to keep us apart. I really dislike my sister. She's outgoing and talks energetically, whereas I'm not exactly introverted, but I'm quiet and often felt pressured to cater to my sister's preferences. From my mom's perspective, I always seem dissatisfied. While that perception isn't entirely wrong, I believe my mother misunderstands my true character. A week after my sister flaunted her new car, she came home as usual, and both she and my mother were relaxing in the living room while I stayed in my room. Suddenly, the door to my father's room next to mine swung open, and I heard him hurrying down the stairs. I could hear my father raising his voice, so I went downstairs to see what was happening. He was questioning my mother and sister alternately. It was there. I'm sure it wasn't there. No, really? In what form? In an envelope? Hey Mia, have you been in the safe lately? I only took out some money when you asked me to. My sister was clearly flustered and kept glancing outside, towards her new car. Mia, do you know anything about this? My mother looked at me with a shocked expression. Her face seemed to say, don't say a word, Mom and Sis already know more about this. Wait, hold on, what are you implying? I have nothing to do with this. What are you talking about? Despite them revealing the source and use of the money to me, I was shocked by their audacity to pretend they didn't know. And that car, I pointed at my sister's new car. Tell me Mom didn't buy that for you as a gift, right? My mother's face went pale, and my sister looked like she wanted to disappear. It was the first time I'd seen such expressions on their faces. That envelope is Mia's money, isn't it? I asked. But Mia just said she took it out of the safe. So whose money is it, if not Mia's? She's been saving it. I haven't withdrawn it yet. What's going on? Even if it's Mia's, you used it without permission. My mom kept stealing glances at my sister, who avoided eye contact. This is typical of my sister's behavior. Mom must be shocked because that money was supposed to be for renovating the house to make it accessible for our parents. I knew Mom had been urging Dad to let her mother live with us. She wanted to care for our grandmother, who had become frail after losing our grandfather a few years ago. While Dad's parents were well supported by nearby siblings, Mom had no siblings and her mother lived alone, so she hoped her mother could move in with us. We were even planning to make our home accessible to accommodate her. My parents believed that preparing the house now would be beneficial as they grew older. The $30,000 was specifically set aside for this purpose. My mother had mistaken it for my savings. Now what are we going to do? You knew we needed that money to make the house accessible, right? We've already signed the contract and construction starts next month. What's the plan now? Dad's angry questions overwhelmed Mom, leaving her tearful. My sister remained indifferent as usual. We'll have to cancel the renovations, Mom whispered sadly. No, absolutely not. Then Grandma can't move in. You need to talk to your parents. Can't we find another solution? Dad slammed his hand on the table, raising his voice. This is no joke. You need to figure this out. The only option left is to sell the car. Wait a minute, selling the car isn't an option. Can't we find another way, maybe borrow from another source? Please, help us. I can't face my husband with this, pleaded Mom, now at odds with my sister after being so united in pressuring me earlier. Dad watched them with disbelief. Mom, realizing the gravity of her irreversible actions, was in dire straits, her plans to care for her parents now shattered. My sister attempted to play innocent with Dad, but he wasn't buying it this time. It was clear the new car parked outside was bought with the money from our safe, and Dad was growing tired of her attempts to avoid responsibility. But you agreed to Grandma moving in. You promised to take care of Mom. Why the sudden change? Dad's frustration grew. Your parents are fine, with siblings nearby. My mom is alone, with no one close by. It was true, Mom's family lived out of state, far away, but now she was reacting out of desperation. Dad became even angrier, and a heated argument erupted, fueled by the financial betrayal. Blame was unfairly falling on Dad. Seeing my sister try to slip away, I quietly moved the car keys to Dad's side, preventing her escape. If you're insisting on Grandma moving in, then take responsibility for it. What you did is no different from theft, I asserted firmly. Mom looked down, appearing resigned. Dad clarified that the money Mom used for the car was from the safe, and my sister was equally responsible. This angered my sister. Dad, you've always been too forgiving of her, I said, my expression stern. Don't you think it's unfair? Even Mom misunderstood. It's clear Dad is troubled by my sister, who never seems to learn. She's stubbornly defensive, especially when it comes to me. Just because it's my money doesn't give you the right to use it. I'm not the villain here. And what's with Mia marrying a man with a bright future? He's just benefiting from our parents' connections. I've always endured how my sister treated me, but this time, I couldn't take it anymore. Isn't it strange how your husband's family spoils him like that? I don't need lectures from someone as spoiled and naive as you. Even Mom, Dad, and my sister were taken aback by my outburst of anger. Who are you calling naive and disgusting? I'm talking to you, the one who doesn't appreciate Mom, who bought you a car, and only cares about herself. My frustration peaked, causing my sister to step back. By the way, my boyfriend's father is the executive at your husband's main client. I proposed a solution to Dad. At first he was surprised, but since it came from me, he, considering me the victim, accepted it. A week later, Mom announced she was giving up on the idea of living together. But Dad intervened. You have $10,000 in your account, right? Take it all out. With that, Dad retrieved the blueprint and cost estimate for the construction. The initial estimate was $30,000, but by opting for less expensive plumbing fixtures, it could be reduced to $25,000. Mom listened quietly to Dad's explanation, nodding in agreement. I can manage $10,000, which leaves enough for Maya's wedding, but I can't cover more than that. We're still $5,000 short, Mom admitted, sounding resigned as she looked down. The remaining $5,000 will have to come from Mia, Dad stated firmly. What? Grandma's situation shouldn't be blamed, and Mom would be in trouble, right? This money is my safety net, saved up in case of emergencies. Mom covered her face with both hands, tears streaming down as she nodded. Go ahead with it, Dad, I said. Are you sure about this? Dad asked, seeking confirmation. I nodded in agreement. Mom continued to bow her head, expressing her gratitude. I've been cold to Mia all this time, causing her discomfort. I thought it was justified to use her money because it was hers, despite my behavior, and yet, she sobbed, taking my hand. I'm really sorry. Thank you so much. In return, make sure you celebrate my wedding properly, as any mother should. After making some adjustments to the construction plan, the work began on schedule. The renovations went smoothly, and it was decided that my grandmother would soon move in with us. As for my sister, she didn't visit our parents' house for a while, but apparently she did apologize to them. While she didn't apologize directly to me, it seems she acknowledged her mistakes. Mom completely changed her attitude towards me, interacting in a much kinder manner. Perhaps it's because of the money and her feelings of remorse. As planned, my wedding went ahead smoothly. Both Mom and Dad appeared genuinely happy. Meanwhile, my sister's husband was busy ingratiating himself with my fiance's father, bowing respectfully and serving him drinks. It was quite a sight to see my sister's surprised expression when she realized my earlier concerns were true. With that, our family's major issue was resolved, and it seemed to bring closure to the challenges in my life as well. Interestingly, during the wedding, when a picture of my sister lovingly doting on me as a baby was projected, it seemed my sister quietly shed a few tears.
Hello, my name is Macy. I'm 42 years old and have been married twice. My second marriage has been wonderful, but my first was a disaster. My first husband's name is Bobby, and we were high school sweethearts. I was a cheerleader and he was a jock. We had a lot of fun together, and he made me happy back then. He was my first boyfriend, so I did everything for him because I thought he was the one I'd be with forever. We planned to go to the same university so we could stay together, but in my second year, when I was 19, I got pregnant. My family was upset, and I wasn't thrilled either. My mom kept telling me that life with Bobby wouldn't be easy. My family never liked him but couldn't really explain why. They just had a bad feeling about him. As a teenager, I wanted to prove them wrong and rebel, so I ignored their concerns. Both our families agreed to support us until we graduated and got good jobs, and I'm still very thankful for that. Bobby and I got married at the courthouse and had our first child. At first, Bobby was a great father, and I felt like I was proving everyone wrong. Then 2 years later, I got pregnant again. By then, I had graduated from college, but I had to quit my job to take care of the kids. Bobby worked 2 jobs to support us. Life was hard. But at that time, I felt that as long as I had Bobby with me, I could handle anything. But a couple of months after our second child was born, Bobby started acting very differently. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't listen. One day, I took the kids out for a walk and came back to an empty apartment. All of Bobby's things were gone. I panicked, and seeing me panic made the kids cry. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. I remember rushing to my mother's house with the kids crying while I tried not to break down. When my mother opened the door, she looked worried and let us in. What happened? She asked. I think Bobby left me, I said. What? What do you mean? I took the kids for a walk, and when we got back, all his stuff was gone. I can't reach him. Oh no, do you know why he might have left? I don't know. He'd been acting very differently for a while. But he wouldn't talk to me. And then today, he just left. Okay, calm down. We'll wait a while, and if he doesn't come back, we'll file for divorce. I'll help you out. But I loved him. How could he do this to his children? I know. I wish I could find him for you and ask him all these questions, but we have to move on. Not because he'll heal you, but because you have 2 kids to raise. My mom was right. I spent the next few months painfully getting over him while raising 2 kids who looked a lot like him. I cried myself to sleep many nights, but eventually, months turned into years, and I slowly got over the pain. My kids obviously asked questions about their father, and when they were old enough, I told them the truth. They were devastated but surprisingly understanding. As a family, we learned to live past the pain. My mom was a huge help and made raising 2 kids much easier than it would have been alone. 13 years after Bobby left, I met my current husband, Fred, at a bar during one of my friend's birthday parties. My mom was watching the kids, so I thought it was a good time to relax and have some fun with my friends. Most of the night, I stayed with my friends, chatting and laughing. Towards the end of the night, Fred approached me. My friends had been encouraging me to meet someone for years, but I was too traumatized by Bobby to try. So when Fred came up to me, my friends stepped back to watch as I talked to him. He started by asking if he could buy me a drink. I wasn't going to turn down a free drink, so I said yes. We waited until we got our drinks to start talking. "So what brings you here?" he asked. "Ah, it's my friend's birthday, and I'm just here to celebrate with her," I replied. "That's nice. How about I send over some drinks for all of them?" he offered. "All of them? There are 7 more people there." "It's all right. I'll make up all the money I spent here the next 2 hours, so no worries." "So you're rich? Ha, I guess you could say that. Of course, I'm not trying to brag or anything. No, it's a great thing to flaunt. Not a lot of people get to do that, and you aren't being a jerk about it. You're buying a bunch of strangers drinks because I told you it was one of their birthdays. What can I say? I have a particular weakness for pretty women. You're so weak you believe everything they say, even lies." "Yes, of course. Although did you lie?" he asked with a playful smile. "No, it is one of their birthdays. But it is concerning that pretty women make you weak. You should get that checked," I joked. "How about you help me with it? Maybe if I had a pretty woman by my side, I'd only have a weakness for one woman," Fred replied with a playful smile. It was a confidence boost to be called pretty by Fred, especially because he was so handsome. He looked like he could be on the cover of Vogue. I surprised myself by flirting back with him. I was usually quite introverted, so I don't know if it was the drink or just Fred's charm, but I felt comfortable being flirty. Eventually, my friends came to get me, thanking Fred for the drinks. Before I left, Fred and I exchanged numbers. From then on, we talked all the time. We started with texts, then moved on to calls whenever we had free time or something interesting to share. We also started meeting up more often. At first, we met in public places, but as time passed, we began hanging out at each other's homes. I was shocked when I saw Fred's house for the first time. It was like a mansion. Fred laughed and told me to get used to his wealth because it would soon be mine. Fred was very open about wanting to marry me. He told me countless times how comfortable he felt around me, and that just made me love him more. He was also completely okay with me having kids. When I told him about Bobby, he was genuinely upset for me. After that, he went above and beyond to show me how much he cared about me. Fred and Bobby were like night and day, and being with Fred made me realize why so many people didn't want me to be with Bobby. I was glad I got out of that relationship, but I hated how it ended. Fred helped me heal and move on from it, which I was incredibly grateful for. We only dated for a year before getting married. We had a destination wedding and flew out our closest friends and family. My kids were thrilled for me and constantly told me how much they loved Fred, which was a huge relief for me. Life from then on was smooth sailing. Fred eased all my worries and even helped with my kids' education, despite me insisting I could handle it. He showed me that he accepted all of us, not just me. He decorated my kids' rooms exactly how they wanted them before we even moved in together. Fred did everything Bobby didn't and more. It was a true turning point for my family, and that's how we grew into what we are today. From then on, Fred and I had a child of our own, but he never treated my kids differently. About a year after our marriage, my kids asked him to legally adopt them, which was another big moment for our family. After that, we became one big family. We did all the things families do, going out to eat, going on vacations, having fun together, you name it. My career was going well, and Fred's company was thriving too. There wasn't a single thing wrong in my life. Before I knew it, 7 years had gone by. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello," I answered. "Look who it is. It's Macy." "Who is this? Don't you recognize me?" "Ah, I don't think you remember much anyway. It's Bobby here. How are you doing?" the voice said. "Bobby? What the heck? How did you even get my number?" I asked, surprised. "Ah, I forgot how whiny you are. I just happened to come across your number and thought I'd give you a call to see how you've been, Bobby replied. How has life been treating you since? He asked. Since you left me? Oh, come on, Macy. We were having way too much trouble, and both you and I know that we would have gotten divorced anyway. So you just chose to leave without saying a word. Well, I wanted to avoid all the emotional drama, so I did what I had to do, Bobby said. You are unbelievable. A pretty rich piece of work. Do you even realize the harm you caused me? Leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Are you serious right now? Yes, I married a wealthy woman with kids, but I was willing to overlook it because of her money. And it paid off because she got me this amazing job that pays me so much. I'm living my dream. So you abandoned your own kids to take care of someone else's. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Please never call me again. Goodbye. I was stunned by the sheer audacity of that man to call me just to brag about his new rich lifestyle. Part of me wanted to keep talking to him just to find out where he was, so I could give him a piece of my mind. But I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I could barely think straight. After I hung up on him, I felt hurt, not for myself, but for my kids. They grew up without a father who was too busy taking care of his new wife's children. We struggled, but what did he expect? We were just high school graduates when we had our first child. Where would we have gotten the money for ourselves? At the same time, I felt disgusted. He was the epitome of a sleazebag. He only cared about someone if they had something to offer him. I decided to block his number because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. That chapter of my life had been closed for long enough, and I never wanted it reopened. I told Fred about it later that night, and he was understandably upset but also glad that I blocked Bobby's number. We decided to move forward from that. About a week later, I received another call from an unknown number, and once again, it was Bobby. I was getting frustrated by his constant calls. He called to brag about his luxurious lifestyle, his new expensive car, and how well his kids were doing at school. I didn't bother being polite this time. I just hung up on him. But that didn't stop him. He kept calling every week after that, telling me about his extravagant purchases. I blocked him with every new number he used, but he kept finding ways to reach me. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls altogether because he was becoming a nuisance. It seemed like he enjoyed bothering me. One day, when I was stressed at work, Bobby called me again. Oh, hey, Macy, he said. Can't you just leave me alone? I snapped. Oh, come on. I'm just trying to make up for lost time, he replied casually. Well, you're 20 years too late. The kids don't care about you, and neither do I. Leave me alone. I said firmly. You know you love it, Macy, he replied. I really don't. I don't want to hear anything about you or your new good life. Why? Are you jealous? Are you jealous I'm living the life that you'll never be able to live? He taunted. I can assure you I'm not. Well, here's something that will definitely make you jealous. I just got a promotion. I don't give a crap. You know you're jealous. I just got a promotion at Digidom, one of the finest media companies. I'm going to hang up, I said, ending the call. I was furious and annoyed after the call, but something Bobby said kept nagging at me. I was too angry to think about it at the moment, so I pushed it aside. When I got back home, I couldn't shake the feeling, and then it hit me. Bobby mentioned working for Digidom, one of the top media companies in our city, and it struck a chord because Fred is the CEO and founder of that company, my husband. I couldn't believe how perfectly the universe had aligned. This meant I finally had a way to teach Bobby a lesson, not just for bothering me, but also for abandoning his children. I waited eagerly for Fred to come home, bubbling with excitement to tell him about my day. Did something happen? Why do you seem so hyper? Fred asked when he saw me. Nothing happened per se, but I did find out something big, I said, unable to contain myself. Oh, what is it? He asked, intrigued. Bobby called again. That sick guy. If I could get my hands on him. Fred started, his anger evident. That's the thing, he might be closer than we thought. I interrupted. Huh? What do you mean? Well, today he called me to brag about his big promotion at work, and guess where he works? I said, a grin spreading across my face. You mean to tell me that he works at my company? Fred exclaimed, disbelief evident in his voice. Yeah. At first, I couldn't help but think his company name sounded really familiar, and then it hit me. I explained. Did you really not remember the company I created? Fred teased. Listen, I was way too angry to remember my own name. Cut me some slack, I joked back. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Anyways, do you want me to fire him? Fred asked. Absolutely. But before you do, I was wondering if there was any way to humiliate him, I said. Definitely. Bold of you to think that I wasn't going to fire him in the worst way possible for him, Fred chuckled. With that, we began planning our revenge. We decided to wait a few more weeks before executing our plan to fire him. We would record his calls to me and play them in front of everyone at a big company event in 2 months, which Bobby would be in charge of. There would be several big names present, and we would tarnish his reputation. Over the next few weeks, I answered Bobby's calls calmly, knowing I had the upper hand. I listened to him boast about his wealth and my lack of it, all while recording every conversation. These recordings would come back to haunt him, and I couldn't wait. At the end of the 2 months, the event arrived. Normally, I avoided big crowds, but this time, I wanted to see Bobby's downfall while I sat on the throne. Fred bought me a stunning, expensive dress for the occasion. I stayed in the car until Fred called me, not wanting Bobby to see me and run. I entered when Fred introduced me during his speech. As I walked on stage, Bobby's face dropped. I smirked as I passed him, watching him sweat. Fred praised me and spoke about our wonderful years together, raising my kids. With every word of praise, Bobby seemed to sweat more. I beamed with pride as the crowd applauded me. Then Fred's speech took a surprising turn. He spoke about how I had been harassed by my ex-husband recently, detailing how he had abandoned me and our kids to start a new family with someone wealthy. But fate had a twist in store because my ex-husband worked for Fred's company. The crowd murmured in shock, speculating about who my ex could be. Fred quieted them down, promising to reveal the identity. He pointed at Bobby, declaring him to be my ex-husband. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. Bobby looked like he might faint, realizing there was no way out. Fred wasn't finished, he had proof. He played the recordings of Bobby's calls to me, exposing his behavior. Bobby froze as the truth unfolded. Fred announced that due to Bobby's actions, he was fired. The crowd cheered as Fred and I left the stage. Bobby was escorted out, and the event continued smoothly. Revenge was served, and it tasted sweeter than anything else. You're quite bold to call me again after last night. I answered the unknown caller. You tricked me, the voice on the other end exclaimed. What do you mean? I asked innocently. You absolute witch. Don't play dumb with me. How could you not tell me that you were married again, and to my boss no less? As I've told you before, Bobby, I simply didn't care about you, I replied calmly. I know that, but the least you could have done was inform me, he retorted. So you would only stop harassing me if you knew who my husband was? And if my husband wasn't your boss, you would have continued. I countered. Don't twist my words. Bobby protested. I'm not twisting anything. And if we're talking about decency, Bobby, let's talk about you abandoning your family. If you could do that, I can certainly do this. Enjoy your new life, and I hope you find a new job, I said firmly. I don't have a family anymore. My wife left me because of yesterday, and she took the kids. And it's all because of you. Bobby lamented. I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself. Goodbye, Bobby, and good luck, I replied, ending the call. It felt empowering to finally stand up to Bobby and know that I had caused him to lose everything. I hope he learns never to mess with me or my family again. Fred and I continue to thrive together, and our kids have grown into wonderful adults. My life is peaceful once again, and I no longer stress about Bobby's calls. I finally feel vindicated and free. Thank you for listening to my story.
My in-laws caught us completely off guard when they moved in without any prior notice. At first, I thought they were merely delivering a large package, but to my astonishment, they emerged from the front door, stating they had no intention of paying rent or doing any chores. They insisted that we take care of them and demanded the biggest room, expecting us to assist with their move. It was surreal. My father-in-law, Austin, and brother-in-law, Owen, had simply barged in and started giving orders about rearranging things. The situation was so absurd that I couldn't help but chuckle, finding humor in the midst of the chaos. With a grin, I reassured them, it's totally fine, and promptly called my husband, knowing he would be home soon. I couldn't help but wonder how he would react to this unexpected mess especially considering that the ones who had mocked me were his own family. As anticipated, my husband arrived home, visibly upset with Austin and Owen. However, he surprised everyone by showing them a document. I couldn't contain my amusement as I watched his father and brother's expressions change, understanding that they had no grounds to stay here without our consent. In the end, the tables turned, and it was I who moved out of the house. My name is Catherine Miller, a 34-year-old remote worker. Due to certain family circumstances, I'd opted for a job that allowed me to work from home, giving me the flexibility to manage household chores and explore new recipes whenever I pleased. I met my husband, Michael Miller, through a dating app during the peak of a flu outbreak. Despite his frequent business trips, Michael wanted us to live together so I wouldn't feel lonely. We fell in love quickly, and marriage was on our minds. However, my irregular periods made it difficult for us to conceive, leading to emotional struggles. Opening up to Michael brought us closer, and we resolved to face life's challenges together. Our peaceful life was disrupted when Michael's father, Austin Miller, called us, complaining about not receiving greetings from our end. Although Michael had reservations about meeting his father, we decided to visit his parents' home. His reluctance was evident as we prepared to go, his frown deepening with every step. Throughout the journey, Michael's displeasure was palpable. He remained silent, clearly indicating his desire to avoid the impending encounter. I wished I knew the reasons behind his aversion, but he chose not to share. Despite my curiosity, I respected his silence, hoping he would eventually open up and confide in me. As we approached his parents' house, we carried a box of pastries as a gesture of goodwill. Michael's tension was undeniable, reflecting the complex relationship he had with his father. I had anticipated receiving sarcastic remarks, but I mustered the courage and left the house. Stress often gave me stomach aches, a fact not lost on Michael, who looked at me with concern and asked, "Are you okay? Should we do this another time?" "I think I'm fine," I replied, attempting to steady my nerves. "It wouldn't be right if we didn't greet your father, right?" It was the same father who had complained over the phone, and there was an air about him that suggested he wouldn't forgive us easily. The situation felt more troublesome than anything else. Michael, too, seemed to sense the tension and was eager to drive, perhaps to keep himself distracted. I couldn't shake the feeling that there were deep-seated issues at his childhood home. Meeting such a father-in-law could be tiresome, but I never regretted choosing Michael. I cherished the kindness he showed me and his occasional clumsiness. It was these little things that meant the most. Lost in thought, we eventually arrived at Michael's childhood home, which was conveniently close to our apartment. It was within walking distance, just a short stroll away if we ever felt like it. As I entered his house, his father greeted me with a big smile. Michael, on the other hand, gave his father a slight glare as he stepped inside. From a room deeper inside the house, I could hear Michael's raised voice. "You can't just mooch off Dad because you're unemployed and stay at home all day. How old do you even think you are?" "Shut up. What I do isn't any of your business." Owen, Michael's brother, defiantly held his own. To sum up the argument, Owen had been living an unemployed lifestyle since his late 20s, without any valid reason like health issues. It was simply because he felt jobs didn't suit him, while Michael understood the desire for a job that suited one's preferences. It was frustrating to see Owen not even attempting to find one. Their father was no different, constantly bringing home different women and ending relationships time after time. Michael always said there was no way they could be happy living like that. "I'm not here to babysit the two of you. I came to announce that Catherine and I are getting married," Michael declared firmly. Yeah, got it. If you want to brag about being happy, do it somewhere else. I'm good if I can just live with Dad." Owen brushed off the confrontation, deeply engrossed in his video game. Annoyed by the sight, Michael was about to react when we realized his father was looming over us. "Catherine, huh? If you're going to marry Michael, you better be ready to take care of his family. Once you're married to Michael, we're family. You get that?" While that might be true, I didn't think it was mandatory. While that may be true, I don't think it's mandatory, I replied, trying to stand my ground. What'd you just say, young lady? You've got some nerve. I'll teach you some respect for your elders. Suddenly, his father raised his voice, and I was snapped back to reality, taken aback. Michael quickly pulled my hand, and we managed to leave the house. Dread washed over me as his father, appearing more like a terrifying monster, began chasing us. There was something deeply unsettling about that family. The fear lingered, even as we attempted to choose an apartment. His father always seemed to beat us to it, deciding for us. To prevent such incidents from recurring, Michael and I decided we needed to move. Thanks to my job in web-related work, I had the flexibility to work from anywhere with just a computer. My job wasn't the issue, but Michael's was. While he enjoyed household chores, he also owned a carpentry business, often traveling for work. Consequently, I ended up handling most of the moving process. There was an inevitability to our situation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that his father and the jobless Owen might visit. Given my knack for bad premonitions turning true, all I could do was hope they wouldn't come. In the meantime, I proceeded with the moving arrangements, taking Michael's opinions into account. I wanted to get everything sorted before they potentially showed up at our house. Once the moving process was done, I was finally able to shift to working from home. There were still a few loose ends, including contacting a representative regarding a web video project I had discussed earlier. While I was engrossed in messaging and talking on the phone, I heard a knock on the front door. Michael usually didn't bother knocking. He would simply walk in. The unexpected visitor puzzled me. Could it be his father and Owen? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. As I contemplated this, a loud, aggressive voice echoed from behind the door. It was his father, Austin. Panic set in. Michael wasn't back yet, which meant I had to handle this situation alone. Perhaps talking to him would resolve things. I ended my call with the client and cautiously approached the front door. The relentless knocking only confirmed my suspicions. It had to be his father. Uncertain of his intentions, but determined to protect our peace, I mustered a polite greeting and opened the door slightly. Before I could react, Owen forcefully pushed the door open, dropping a large bag at the entrance with a satisfied grin. He theatrically collapsed onto a chair, exclaiming, "I'm exhausted." I asked Austin what was going on, and he explained, "We couldn't pay the mortgage on our place, so we sold it and decided to move. Naturally, we won't pay any rent or do any chores, so take care of us." With a self-centered air, both his father and Owen strolled into our apartment. Owen, lugging his baggage, scanned the rooms to decide where he would settle. Meanwhile, his father, after depositing his enormous bag in the living room, began to complain about the room's size. "Come on, this apartment is meant for 2 people, you know. If we're going to have 4 people living here, we might need to find another place." However, Michael and I had already chosen our next home, and our moving date was just around the corner. "I'm going to take the upstairs room," Owen declared, showing no consideration for the situation. "Catherine, can you tidy up this room for me? And haven't you put too much stuff in the living room? There's no space for us to even eat together." I was left utterly speechless by their audacity, as they said whatever pleased them without any regard for courtesy. Deciding that I needed to inform Michael about the situation, I was suddenly startled by the sound of someone punching a wall, most likely out of anger. However, the words that followed provided a small relief, indicating that I might not have to deal with these 2 any longer. Unfortunately, due to work circumstances, Michael couldn't return to the apartment. The burden of handling this situation fell upon me, and as a woman, facing 2 men alone felt unsafe. So, I decided to make a call for help. The person I called was a friend who had previously assisted both Michael and me with our moving preparations. She happened to live in a building constructed by Michael's company, and her name was Olivia Lewis. Olivia was a CEO who owned properties overseas. When I explained the situation to Olivia, she expressed her unease about the father and son in my home. Soon enough, they arrived at our apartment, arrogantly scattering their belongings everywhere. despite the fact that Michael and I were the rightful owners of the apartment. With me being the leaseholder due to my remote work, they seemed oblivious to the reality. With a gracious smile, I told the two clueless men, "That's totally fine. We're moving out of this apartment anyway." His father, appearing desperate, clung to me. I couldn't hide my condescending look as I firmly stated, "Don't cling to me looking so pitiful. It's embarrassing." He was on the verge of tears, trying to reason. "It's a joke, right? Tell me it's a joke." I responded sternly, "It's not a joke, Austin. Michael and I decided this together. There's no way I'd joke about it now." The same man who had been smug about the living room just a while ago was now clinging to me, looking truly pitiable. Owen, puzzled by the scene between his father and me, came downstairs and couldn't believe what he was witnessing. "Dad, are you seriously trying to make a move on Michael's wife? Now that's just unbelievable," Owen remarked. I had a few choice words for Owen, who was making such comments. To begin with, as soon as he arrived at our place, I was infuriated by his audacity in searching for his own room in a house he hadn't even rented. Their actions were beyond my comprehension. If anyone should be saying unbelievable, it's my line. You folks moving into someone else's house is just unbelievable. You didn't even have a lease. What made you think you could just move in and live here? Realizing that I needed assistance in dealing with this situation, I decided to call Olivia, who held considerable authority as both the landlord of an apartment complex and its general manager. Olivia was a respected figure in the area, often referred to as the CEO due to her prominence. There was no way they could talk their way out of this once she arrived. Olivia soon arrived at the parking lot and entered the room. Olivia assessed the situation alongside me and the two men and seemed to grasp the core issue. She decided to contact Michael to address the matter. After a brief conversation with Michael, Olivia appeared to have resolved the issue. Her expression was dead serious as she inquired, "Did you handle the tax declaration after selling your house?" "No, not yet," I admitted. "That's odd. We can't lease you the apartment without that. Please ensure you've reported it correctly, and then we may proceed with this room," Olivia explained, demonstrating a meticulous approach. When dealing with individuals like the ones we were facing, legal knowledge was essential to have a fair conversation. Michael must have been well aware of his father's troublesome nature. His father had a reputation for being self-centered and engaging in extramarital affairs, a story Michael had shared with me before one of his business trips. Michael's mother had left their house after discovering his father's infidelity, and her departure left Michael feeling remorseful. She had even hugged Michael apologetically before leaving, expressing guilt for leaving him in such a household. Michael had then taken over all the household chores. However, his father's philandering behavior only worsened over time, while Owen kept jumping from one job to another before ultimately becoming unemployed around the age of 28. He took pride in receiving unemployment benefits and eventually withdrew from social interaction, feeling overwhelmed. Faced with the daunting task of taking care of Owen and their father, Michael decided to marry me. They were diligent in paying utility bills, but occasionally skipped out on insurance premiums and other minor fees. Michael even worried about being unable to complete the house loan payments. Realizing that they weren't responsible adults, Michael eventually decided it was time to move out. When his father began arguing with Olivia, Michael sent me a message instructing me to intervene. I stepped in between his father and Olivia and calmly stated, "Excuse me, but Michael and I are moving out tomorrow due to some reasons." His father seemed taken aback and asked, "Hey, hold on. What's going on? I didn't hear about this from Michael. Shouldn't he inform his father when he's moving?" I replied, "He said he didn't want to talk to you about it. He thinks it's best to live separately from a philandering, selfish person like you and Owen." To emphasize my point, I showed his father our conversation on WhatsApp, where Michael had voiced his dissatisfaction with his father. Although I had only been a listener, I had gathered a very negative impression of their past actions. Even during our brief interactions, I couldn't help but find it peculiar for his father and Owen to move into our apartment. Based solely on that fact, I had doubts about the reliability of this father and son duo. Olivia interjected during his father's grumbling, explaining, "Even if Catherine leaves, if you, Austin, don't declare the sale of your previous house, you won't be able to rent an apartment in the future." Austin, appearing somewhat baffled, responded, "But I have money on hand. Isn't that enough?" Olivia clarified, "No, it's not just about selling the house and being done, Austin. If you don't declare it, there are penalties. You'll be the one at a loss. Are you okay with that?" Austin reluctantly agreed, acknowledging the point. Olivia's reasoning made sense in the context of real estate transactions. If he had sold the previous house, he would eventually need to report it to the local authorities. Perhaps he hadn't even reported it to the real estate agency, which would be suspicious. Given their lack of research and understanding, it was evident that Austin and Owen had moved into our place without considering the necessary procedures. As I examined the documents Olivia had brought, it was apparent that they didn't comprehend any of it. I had been fielding questions from Austin and Owen about the documents and couldn't help but wonder how long it would take for them to grasp the situation. Michael and I had resided in this apartment for quite some time, and we had taken the initiative to research the necessary procedures. That's why everything went so smoothly for us. There were always pros and cons to everything, and it seemed like common sense to check things out before making such a significant move. Yet they had moved into our place without giving it any thought, which I found highly questionable. The ones acting recklessly were Austin and Owen. In that moment, Olivia decided to issue a warning to the two of them. "Please don't assume you can just move into this apartment immediately. I'll check everything thoroughly and get back to you. Then we can decide on the next steps," Olivia said firmly. Owen seemed to understand, sitting quietly and listening. To be on the safe side, I chose to spend the night at my parents' house as the apartment was going to be rented out the next day. I didn't want to sleep with two guys, especially ones who lacked common sense. Considering the risk of getting involved in some mess, I decided to let Michael's father and his brother stay in my apartment. Olivia, whom I got along with at the real estate agency, had suggested it too, indicating there might have been genuine issues. If anything went wrong, it could ruin our moving plans with Michael. I entrusted the situation to Olivia, the real estate agent, and informed Michael to proceed with the preparations for our new place. I stayed in touch with Olivia to check on how the two were doing. Based on her recommendation, the apartment was rented to Michael's father and Owen for just a few days. Olivia needed to verify if they had properly completed the necessary procedures at the real estate agency, and if they had been paying their taxes regarding the house they claimed to have sold. She also had to contact the associated real estate firm. It turned out that not only had they neglected post-sale procedures, but they also hadn't paid their taxes. Moreover, Olivia reported them to the police, suspecting they might have run off with just the sale money, hinting at a potential scam. To be safe, Olivia decided to inform Michael's father and Owen, who were staying in the apartment. If false information was provided to the real estate company, penalties would surely be enforced. They would not only have to pay the taxes, but also face potential penalties. I wondered how much money would be left in the end. According to what I heard from Olivia, it seemed that it might even go into the negative. The reason was that they had only consulted one real estate agency, which had good reviews and word-of-mouth recommendations. They believed the estimate would be the same no matter which agency they asked. Another task they had neglected was the property transfer process. In simple terms, it involved changing the property's name from Michael's father to the new owner. If there was any outstanding mortgage on the house, it should have been paid from the sale. But as expected, they hadn't paid it, turning the situation into a case with interrogations regarding the amount due and possible fraud. What was particularly bad was Michael's father insisting he knew nothing about it. As for Owen, he couldn't return to his old home, and he lost our apartment. He was forced to find a job with housing provided. However, he only had experience being a shut-in and living off his parents. Eventually, my parents took him in, but they made it clear that once he found a job with housing, he had to move out. With some guidance from my parents, it seemed he might secure a job. I hoped Michael's father and Owen would learn to live responsibly. Meanwhile, Michael and I decided to relocate overseas. Michael's hard work had been recognized, and he was offered a project abroad in Spain. However, both of us were Americans who couldn't speak Spanish. We diligently studied, trying to learn basic conversation skills. I wanted to be able to hold everyday conversations as much as possible. More than anything, it was my first time going on a business trip abroad, so there was a part of me that was really excited. Michael's job was overseas, so he started looking at potential homes for us. He kept me updated through messages and calls, always trying to ensure I wasn't anxious. Today, from the airport, I received a call from a worried Michael who was about to fly to Spain. "Are you okay? I know it's been hard because of my dad and brother." "I'm totally fine. I'm more excited about living abroad with you," I reassured him. "Good to hear," Michael said, his voice filled with relief. His relief made me happy too. We were now free from those two, and we were going to enjoy our lives. To achieve that, we would keep studying, learn new things, and adapt to our new life. Everything was going to be all right. And so, our life in Spain began. A child came into our lives, and our daily routine changed as a family of 3. We cherished our happiness and continued to live strongly every day.